All right, welcome one and all. It's the drinker here, and I'm here for happy hour number 31. I can't believe how many of these we've done already. And tonight we've got a very special show because we're going to be doing Shaun of the Dead, legitimately one of my favorite zombie movies of all time. And there's nobody else that I would rather discuss a film like this with than the Longman himself, MauLer. Thanks for joining me tonight, man.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
Hello there. Yeah, this is one of them. It's one of them movies where I'm like, yeah, this has been one of my favorites my whole life. It's just excellent, excellently written, excellently everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Honestly, because the Cornetto Trilogy it's really well known for just being brilliantly written, well constructed. And I was kind of making notes as I was watching it, just trying to make notes of all the foreshadowing, the setups and payoffs, like the different character moments, all the like recurring gags and everything like that. I've actually got it like on a sheet, and like I ran out of space. There was just so much of it. I couldn't
yeah,
keep track of it all. Like it's
especially for an hour and 40 minutes, they cram the content into this film. It's non-stop.
Yeah, yeah, they really do. And what I love is when you take things like setup and payoff, but you do it in such a way that it feels completely natural.
Yeah,
They set up things that they integrate perfectly into the story, and then you get that payoff like an hour later. It's just so slick the way the writing's done on this, and I think for people like us who just we're always looking for good writing in movies, it's just an absolute pleasure to be able to watch films like this.
oh, they reward you constantly if you're paying attention. It's really, really fun. Loads of reincorporation in this film. Lines that come across as really mundane or normal, and then they said again in a different context later, and it's really satisfying to see.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like even things like Ed farting, and I'll stop doing them when you stop laughing, and it's just like a bit of juvenile humor early on, but then it brings like real pathos late in the movie when you get a completely
Yeah,
different context to it, and it's
yeah, it sums up their relationship. It's why Ed is around. Shaun loves him. Like he's that's why he's
yeah,
because like the film cohesively, I'd say, come together as like, it's like, because there's a bit of a point being made in each of the three, but this one is like, I don't know if you grabbed it, but like there's a couple of lines that relate to basically like, don't let your life go past your eyes without even realizing it. Like obviously the zombies help with that thematically, but there's a lot of characters in the film that talk to Shaun about how he's like, he needs to actually start doing something with his life, and he never
yeah.
moved on from high school. Basically, he's about to hit 30, and he's just in his high school era sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, the movie's really about Sean coming into his own and growing up and becoming a
Yeah,
man, and this whole like taking responsibility for himself and becoming like a self-reliant guy who can take on difficult situations. Like that's what you see throughout the movie. He gets slowly more competent. There's various things that he tries and fails early in the movie, and then he succeeds later on. Like even simple things like when he's at Lizzie's flat and he's trying to climb up the
yeah,
railings outside. He can't do it initially, but then the second time around, when he's around to save her, he's able to do it because he's got that renewed determination. Like just little things like that. There's
yeah. He
so
becomes like a
much.
leader as the film goes on, obviously, and there's a bit of a like, why are you the leader? And it's like, I'm the leader. Like that's just this is the one making decisions and stuff.
I know
Um,
it's interesting though because like, and this is something we'll get into. Like, you know how he's often in conflict with David, like,
yeah,
flatmate of Liz. David's actually pretty much right about everything throughout the film. That's the weird thing. Like he's saying to Sean, like, we should have just stayed at the flat because we were like high up and there was no way for them to get in. And like, Sean leads them on this big quest to get to the Winchester where
yeah.
they end up like, the zombies break in. So David was totally right about that. And he wants to shoot Sean's mum because she's infected with the virus. Again, he's completely right in wanting to do that. Like he's an absolute dick
Yeah.
about it, but it's just like
Well,
I
so,
love how that's the running theme throughout
yeah,
the movie.
you nailed it with David, because like the reason we and Shaun hate him is because we kind of know part of his motivation is strictly for Liz. So
Yeah,
like he'll say stuff. He's such an asshole. Like, do you remember when they meet up with the random other set of people that kind of reflect them?
yeah,
She's introducing them to her side, and she's like, "Oh, this is Shaun. This is his girlfriend." David goes, "Ex-girlfriend."
yeah,
And it's just like, why do you have to do that? Like, it's like, yeah, that's true, that's right, but
yeah,
and yeah, so Shaun is always looking out for David doing things for his own benefit, not actually because they're true or anything.
yeah, yeah. So it's I think you know. in terms of like writing consistent characters as well, like this movie absolutely nails it. Like in terms of how they make decisions and stuff and how they approach things, it's great. As I say, like when we talk through it, we'll get a chance to cover it as
Yeah.
we go. But yeah, like so much of it is just a real joy to watch. I think because we've discussed this before in terms of the Cornetto trilogy. Like I think you very much come down on Hot Fuzz as being the best of the three.
I think most people do.
Yeah.
Hot Fuzz is phenomenal. Shaun of the Dead is excellent, really, really, really good. And then most people say The World's End is the weak one. I'll be looking forward to when we get around to that one, I think, because I would like to stand up for that film a little bit. But like, you know what? World's End's still pretty damn good script-wise. It's just that it doesn't hit people as hard as Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz typically.
Yeah, I think it's not as tight. But in terms of like some of the character moments that it gives you,
Yeah.
it's excellent. Like I love, the fact that they're all a bit older in this one, and it's kind of a more reflective kind of movie about the loss of youth and the kind of changes that come at you as you get older in life and all that. I
Yeah.
think it becomes more relevant, I guess, as the older you get. Like you identify with it more and more, and so yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to cover. And I love the fight scenes in it just because they're so over the top ridiculous, but great, you know. So yeah, we'll kind of go through the movie, I guess, and talk about it. For the people watching, obviously, super chats tend to come and go as we're doing this. We cover them all at the end rather than stopping and starting. So if you send one in, excuse me, don't worry, we'll get through every single one of them. It's just we tend to wait to the end. So
We will indeed.
yeah. So I guess the movie jumps straight in with Shaun getting a bit of a sort of dressing down from his girlfriend Liz, and it's again one of these very hallmarks of the Cornetto trilogy. It very quickly and efficiently establishes all the main characters in the film.
Yeah.
Like literally the first scene, you've got Shaun, you've got his friend and flatmate Ed, you've got his girlfriend Liz, and her flatmates David and Diane. And yeah, like I love how they're just revealed to be there. Like you don't think they're there initially.
This is again, because you kind of mentioned it just earlier, this film is just non-stop with like ways I can complement it, going from writing to editing to acting to sound effects to sound design to the thematic through line. It's a constant. And something I noticed when I booted this up is that the chapter is called Last Orders, and of course it's like the final call. The night it's like the point of the scene is that we're about to this is the end of normality. We're about to begin this zombie apocalypse, and it's almost like the best way that the writer has hidden that they basically want to be like, so these are my characters, this is who they are, so you get to know them, and then we'll start the story, okay? But they do it in a very fun way. It's really engaging, having everybody almost describe themselves through how they're introduced as well. Because as you just said, we don't even know these people are in the scene, and it's almost good for us in terms of like, okay, so there's this guy, I know him, Simon Pegg, right? This is who he is. Girlfriend, I get that. Best friend over there, it's like, oh, that's what he's about. He's like, kind of in the way. It's like, oh, those are her friends, and then there's the bar people, and that's about it. And you get it done in like 3 minutes.
Yeah, and it establishes as well the kind of situation that Shaun's at in life, because his relationship with Liz is on the rocks. She is feeling kind of bored with him, and she feels like she wants a bit more out of life, whereas he's very I guess limited in what he wants to do. He just wants to go for drinks at the Winchester, his local pub, and they kind of just do the same thing every time. And so she's bored, and she's trying to convince him to like broaden his horizons a bit. Whereas you've got Ed, who's like the bad influence on him. He's like the devil on his shoulder, and I just love how he interjects into their conversation. Like she's starting to say like, "Oh, it'd be nice if we could spend some time," and before she can say anything more, he just goes, "Fuck," because he's playing on the
yeah, they're trying to like
thing.
have a heartfelt moment. He's just in the middle of them going, "Cock it." And it's clear that like from the film that it's like Shaun has the ambition to a degree, but he's got no motivation. He's just sitting there like, well, and he can talk himself out of doing absolutely everything, basically, or just living his normal life distracts him from just doing anything that's interesting to a degree. And we get part of that information from David and Di as they or Daff. Sorry, fuck, what's her name again? Because Di is what they call David. Diana, right? Is it?
Diane, I think. Yeah, David and Diane.
David. I was thinking for a second there. I was like, they don't have the same name. What the fuck am I on about? the commentary, like, oh, for the anniversary, which was last week, like they know more about their relationship than Shaun does.
Yeah.
And he ends up using that information later that he got from them to help support, because remember he talks to Yvonne, and she's like, oh, how long have we been together? And he's like, 3-year anniversary as of last week.
There's so much of that, just like things you could totally miss if you weren't paying attention, but yeah, just little moments where the characters make use of something, or something that one person has said has had an influence on another person. Like exacerbate how, like, Shaun doesn't know what it means.
Yeah, and he ends up saying it.
Yeah, he's like, that's going to really exacerbate things.
And
Ed doesn't know what it means either. Like, there's a bit where they're all pointing glasses at each other, and
what's that mean?
Yeah.
It keeps you bouncing, because you're like, oh shit, I remember that. Oh wow, like we're doing that at the same time. Because I was going to say, with this information about the anniversary, it's like, it's not just that's helpful for us and the characters, but who says it like pointedly? It's David. Why does he know? Because he's paying attention. He wants them to break up.
Yep.
It's all very character driven. It's good stuff.
Yep. And you can get a mention of Shaun's mum, how like Liz has never met them, and she's kind of she's disappointed in Shaun that he's never introduced them. Obviously, that just tells you that he's not really committed to her. He's kind of taken the relationship a little bit for granted. So, you're shown that he's wanting to change. He's wanting to be a better person. He says he's going to book them dinner at a fancy restaurant and do nice stuff for her. He's going to be better. And then it flashes into the next scene after you get the little, the credit sequence where everyone's shuffling about like zombies. And he's waking up the next day, and he's Ed's just playing video games. You get that moment which is a great callback late in the movie where Shaun's saying to him like, "Oh, top left," telling him where to shoot, and like then they reverse that late in the movie when Shaun's got an actual gun. They're trying to fend off zombies. Yeah, just so many little bits like that. I love it. They're also playing Time Splitters 2, which is just, that takes me back.
Yeah, obviously player 2 has entered the game, player 2 has left the game straight away, because that's the dynamic they have, which is obviously toxic, is that Shaun does the work and Ed kind of lives off him while selling some weed here and there, which again, we hear Ed say on the phone, he's like, oh yeah, I've got nothing, mate. Yeah, I've got nothing. And then in work, his co-worker is on the phone. He's like, yeah, I talked to him, he's got nothing.
Yeah.
Like, he's got...
Interestingly, that guy is one of the Andes from Hot Fuzz. Like, how different does he look?
He looks like a little high schooler in this movie. It's really surprising.
There's only a few years between those movies, so
yeah,
grew up a lot.
Something I find really cool is like almost a switcheroo. Did you? I'm assuming you spotted Martin Freeman in this movie. He's in it for like a split second. But then Bill Nighy is like it's pretty much a secondary character in this. But then you move to Hot Fuzz, and they both play a character that's like, barely in it. They're kind of in it, but not really. And then you get to the third film, Bill Nighy's become a cameo. He's the voice of the aliens at the end, and Martin Freeman's the main character. It's just like they've arced completely differently across the trilogy.
I know it's weird, but I mean, it's always a pleasure to see Bill Nighy on screen.
Oh yeah, I love him.
He does a great job in this one. I really liked his character.
When you first see him and he just spins around, it's like really unimpressed face.
They apparently had to do that like a lot of takes, because it was really hard to get that kind of really rapid spin around movement without him kind of going off to the side. So he had to really like perfect that spinning on his heel thing in dramatic fashion.
Makes a lot of sense. I love it. I love his delivery. He's a great actor. I wish I'd seen him in more stuff, to be honest.
Yeah. But you also get to meet Pete as well, who's like their third flatmate, who's like the most, organized of the three. Like he's more like upwardly mobile. He's got his own car and everything. And what I love as well, he calls out the fact that they forgot to close the front door. And it's a recurring thing with him that he's always pissed off that they forget to lock the front door, and then that becomes really relevant late when a zombie like bursts into the house because they've forgotten to do it. Again, it establishes it really early on, and it's just a quick little conversation from their flatmate who's kind of pissed off a little bit with them.
Yeah, and with that door thing, I remember when I first had this on DVD back in the day, I remember being like, that zombie just turns up. Like, I know the door's open, but there's no like. And then I rewound, and I remember spotting that you can see him coming in just in
Yeah.
the corner of the screen. They actually show it. I was like, oh, that's so awesome. To be in
Because
this
yeah,
brief
but you get the
encounter.
newscaster who's saying to them like barricade yourselves in your homes, lock your doors, and you just get this like reaction shot of the two of them like, oh shit, we forgot to do it.
Dude, all of the scenes in that house, it's so like it comes across so British, their approach to zombies. Like,
Yeah.
what should we do when they realize the two zombies? They just go, have a sit down.
Yeah. That I mean, that is just a real thing. Like through all the Cornetto trilogy movies, but like especially with this one, there's just a real air of like British attitude to everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Everyone on
like
the phone, and he's like, "Are the zombies still there?" And his mom goes, "Well, I've shut the curtains."
yeah, well, yeah, and he's like, "We're coming over to get you," and she's like, "I don't want to make a fuss," because like that's like every British person's worst nightmare is making a fuss.
It's like, "Did you call the police?" I thought about it. Like,
Yeah. When Bill Nye is like, oh, you know, because he's been bitten by a zombie, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I ran it under a cold tap."
that might be my favorite for being British. I ran it under a cold tap. Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, like Pete's there, and again, it establishes a few things, like the fact they forget to lock the front door. You know, Pete's got a really low opinion of Ed, and he's just saying like, you know, I want him to do more around here. I want him to help out a little bit.
Yeah, and if you remember, Pete is like even willing to concede. There's something that's good about Ed, and then Shaun is like laughing with him, like, "Yeah, that's true." And he's like, "When did that happen? 5 years ago. When is he moving
Yeah,
out?"
it's like yeah, they got drunk and played Tekken 2 all night
Yep.
5 years ago. God damn.
And I think it's relevant because like Ed is kind of representative of like keeping Shaun from moving on. His high school buddy that's just going to keep encouraging him to do the wrong thing, like drink more, eat more, play more video games, just sloth and gluttony, basically, just stopping him from moving on.
Well, when you see, you know, later when Shaun breaks up with Liz, Ed is like, what are you upset about? You've got your pint, you've got your hog lumps. What more do you want?" And like the look on Shaun's face is just one of absolute devastation.
That's honestly, that's what makes it so fucking funny. That scene when he does the orangutan impression, which is already funny, and it just cuts to Shaun's dead face. Just like, it's not working. I have a feeling that he had to work on that, you know, to actually not react to Nick Frost doing it. Which, by the way, I didn't know this. I IMDb'd Nick Frost the other day because I needed to find something to do with him. He's Welsh. I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he like one of those English Welsh people who kind of doesn't have the accent, or?
Well, it must be because I don't know how I've known about Nick Frost for this long, and it's only like yesterday that I found out he was Welsh. He's one of mine. I have like two.
You got him. Blame him. So you got Anthony Hopkins and you got Nick Frost. I mean, that's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah. So again, you've kind of established all these three characters that live together, and Pete heads off to work. Again, it just establishes the fact that he's got a car, and that you get to see him get into it when Shaun goes on his walk to the local corner shop. And it's just a simple thing, but it's like it shows you that's what his car is, that's what it looks like, so that when you see it later, it's not any kind of surprise or anything.
Yeah, they as you said, they set a lot of stuff up without you realizing that's what's happening. Like you're just like, that's normal. Like obviously giving him change to the homeless guy, and then later on when he's a zombie, he's like, "No, sorry, I've not got any change." We referenced that in my high school so much. That joke, it's so funny. Like you're barely paying attention. The zombie comes across as a homeless person.
Well, that's because when that happens, he's totally hungover from his night out, and so he's just like kind of stumbling along. You know, I think like is there not a local kid that kicks a football at him? And he's like, "Next time I see," or sorry, no, he's like, "Hey, you're dead." You know, and then the next time he sees him, he's actually a zombie, but he still kicks a football at him somehow.
Yeah, it's great. That scene is awesome. It's like the wonder of just all these different sort of key moments, and they all repeat, but for completely different reasons. Like the slipping on the car wash, but then he slips on the blood.
Yes.
Was it the hands being on the freezer's doors as well? Just and then. You can see the shop owner in the background coming toward him really slowly when he's like, "Nelson, are you even here?" Just like, "Oh, all right then."
Yeah, he's like, "I'm 15p short." But yeah,
And I
even
think
at
it's
this,
the guy that he gets a drink after him in that store is the same one that walks through his house in the
yes,
next morning. He's like a It looks like he's going to a wedding, maybe. I'm not sure.
yeah, he's dressed up like a best man or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, it's the same guy. There's a lot of recurring zombies and stuff in this.
yeah, they do a really good job of that. Even in that little intro where you see all the people living their lives, a lot of familiar faces when you rewatch that bit. Like,
Yep.
oh, I remember these zombies.
Yep. I love Snake Hips as well from the pub.
Yeah,
Because like what was it? Ed says it's like he's always surrounded by women. Like, he's like this
yeah,
sleazy looking guy. But then when you see him later, he's been killed by zombies and they're all feasting on him. They're all
yep.
women. They're all female zombies. And it's like, oh,
Well,
that's just a cool little touch.
yeah, it is, and that's one of the many parts in this film where if you were in this for the comedy, you'll be like, whoa, that is gory. Like, damn, this is actually, you can't understate. This is actually horror as well.
Well,
Definitely.
that's what it does so well. Like on the surface, it is a comedy horror movie, and it's quite heavy on comedy. But it also brings up moments of real drama
Yeah.
and tragedy. When Shaun loses his mom, he loses his best friend and stuff. Like those are all played seriously, and they do it well. And I think there's quite often that fairly narrow line between tragedy and comedy, and people often use humor in times of great sorrow to deal with it. And I think that's an interesting kind of combination in a film like this.
Yeah, it's definitely like drama. I think keeps coming in and out of the movie as we go, but it definitely like the horror comedy balance as we go on. It feels like it gets more serious. Like once they get to the bar and they're in, and they know that the news stations are all down, everything's quiet. They've just avoided like the army of zombies. It's just a little less chill. Like when you watch it, you're just like, this isn't as quirky and fun now. We're actually like in the we could die part of this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really clever how they can do that, because that's not the film at the beginning. Everything is very, very just hilarious at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean the stakes just keep getting raised as the movie goes on because
Yeah.
that's what you're dealing with here, like the kind of last stand while they're trying to escape. Yeah, you get the little sequence where he goes to the corner shop, which you're going to see replicated later, and he heads off to work. And even at this early stage in the movie, they're starting to bring in little references to the zombie outbreak that's about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a little snippets of news reports of people falling ill. I think you see army trucks go by. What was the other things? Just at that early stage, you see someone go running by on the street or something.
Yeah, like they're. I think when he's getting flowers for his mum, right? He sees a zombie trying to eat some birds. He sees like someone falls over while he's on the bus. He's just like, well.
And the things you see, because initially it's just on the news and it's all very far removed from him. But then, he starts to see it happening around him, and it's very subtle at first. You could kind of miss it, but then it gets more and more noticeable until suddenly it's everywhere and it's just taken over.
And I think that's again trying to tie in with the whole some of these they'll happen. He sees them and then he's distracted by his life, being like, hey, do you want to do this or question or blah blah blah, and just the whole he sort of phases through life. He's not quite paying enough attention, doing enough with it until it obviously knocks right on his door. Because I think that with Philip's death, that's where the film probably starts to get a little bit more so this is serious. We actually do want to have some weight to this. It's not just funny. These people are actually trying to get through this. And I think it's the writing, the performances that really actually make that moment kind of hit. You're like, oh, this was stupid. I didn't realize. Oh, damn. Because their relationship is obviously really rocky. You even get an example of he describes it as all I did was hide a chocolate bar in the car, and he chased me around with a bit of wood, and then that's his version. Then his mum is like, well, you did call him and then he's like, oh, he told you that?
She's just like, yeah, and he goes, motherfucker. So it's you get the understanding that Shaun's not necessarily been a good person or not always been the easiest person to live with. So you get a different side of Philip's character.
Mm-hmm.
And then when his final sort of revelation is look, I just tried to be a good dad to you, and I was trying to be a role model, and I was trying to make you stronger as a person. And
he's like, I always felt like you could do great stuff. You just need that motivation, which ties in with the whole movie. And he was like, I was hoping I could be that person to motivate you.
Yeah.
And then he goes, and it's actually like, damn, that was actually really sad.
Yeah, and it's helped by a great performance by Simon Pegg. Like when he's grieving lost relatives or friends, like he's really good. So he goes off to work, and that's when again, little hints that something's wrong. Like a lot of people are off that day, so like Shaun's in charge of the shop. And for a movie that generally doesn't date badly at all, like the only thing that stood out is just like the CRT televisions everywhere. It's like, oh yeah, this was made in the mid-2000s, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because that's almost like for us now. You're like, oh, that's like a period piece. We're just like, oh man, I was alive back then. That would be another example, by the way. He sees the reports on TV of all the people sorting out deaths and this infection, eyewitnesses, and he fades a bit. He's staring at it, and the soundtrack starts to flare up, and then someone's like, Shaun, and he's like, yeah, what? Yeah. Like,
there's a lot of like, someone will clap a hand on his shoulder and like get his attention, but there's always like a stinger sort of sound effect for it. Like the movie does that a lot because it's just playing on the jump scares that you always get in horror movies. And I do like it, actually. People always really, trying to get his attention.
It's really engaging because if you've never seen the movie before, you don't quite know what's going to happen. Like Shaun of the Dead, if you saw the poster, like the zombies everywhere, but then you watch it, it's like, it's so chill. Like, what are we getting? What's going to happen?
Yeah, it just takes its time. It builds up. And that's when that's when Philip appears for the first time. And he's like, he's wanting Shaun to come over and visit his mom. It's like he missed Mother's Day or something like that. So, he's basically chastising him for being a shit son. Yeah, pretty much. And you can see like how tense their relationship is. That he can barely even look at him. So that like they're obviously very distant. And then you get the recurring like you've got red on you joke.
And another staple for the Cornetto trilogy, I guess, is like you've got the frame of Simon Pegg's face, and then this like free area, and he's like, I keep my personal life and my work life separate. And then the phone just comes in from the right. It's like, it's Liz.
Yeah, he's trying to pretend it's Liz from head office or something.
Yeah.
I just love that dude as well, because he's texting away on his phone. Like Shaun's trying to make a speech because he's like in charge of the shop. The guy's like really taking his time, and then he just goes, continue.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's they're clearly setting up here with it's one of those like your brain will see it, but you maybe don't. It's like, look how shitty he is. Like he's just not confident. He can't lead these people. He's not putting them together. But by the end of the film, he's pretty fantastic at it.
Yeah. That's what he has to do. That's his arc, is coming into his own and finding that confidence. And so, I think he does actually go to a florist to get flowers for his mother. And I think that's when he runs into Yvonne on the way, where it's like a friend of his from like his younger days, and she's asking what he's been doing these days. And again, there's another callback to that later on where she's asking how he is, and he's like, oh, surviving.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot about the characters from the little meeting, but meanwhile, like literally right in front of them is people are dying behind them because of the zombie outbreak causing car crashes. And before we can even pay much attention to the scene, it's just like, oh, you've forgotten to organize the appointment for the meal. And it's just like, oh fuck yeah. And meanwhile we might, like, our eyes are kind of wandering to the background, like, what's going yeah, okay, fine, we'll just carry on with the
Yeah, because the line is like, oh, I'm going out with Liz tonight, and Yvonne's like, oh, anywhere nice? And the camera slowly like zooms in on Shaun, and he's like, yeah, and that realization of like, shit, I forgot to book the table.
And then his rage at like, wow, you can't get me a table. It's like, it's all obviously he's angry at himself, really. Like,
yeah, he's like biting the phone. He's that pissed off.
Yeah, and Ed's just in the background making jokes.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, you can go to the Winchester. They've got a Breville. They'll do you a cheese toasty.
He'll make you a toasty.
That's like the extent of like Ed's culinary expertise. But again, it's just him like trying to make Shaun just go back to his old patterns, and just be the person that he's always been friends with. And so he has to deliver the news to Liz that he's forgotten to book their table, and like she just hangs up on him. So he has to rush around there, and takes the flowers with him. And this is the use of these flowers, right, in this movie is just genius, because they serve so many purposes. Like he's bought them for his mom, genuinely wanting to do something nice. He knows he has to try and salvage the situation with Liz, so he takes them around and tries to give them to her, but they've still got like to the world's greatest mum written on them.
Mm-hmm.
So that fucks things up even worse. He throws them in the bin outside the pub because he's so dejected after like splitting with her. They get thrown out or emptied out later, and his mum finds them, and like, you know, she realizes that he really cares about her, or that he tried to be a good son, like he got them for her.
Yeah, and when she holds them up, it's like, oh man, that's hitting a little harder than I expected it to. Like,
yeah. And just this one simple prop, this one plot device gets used in so many different ways throughout the movie. Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, the whole film is, honestly, the Cornetto Trilogy is.
So he's he tries to rush around there. He tries to repair things with Liz, and that's been the final straw for her, and she breaks off with him. And he's even then he's like trying to say the things that he can do to improve himself, like, oh, I'll stop smoking right now. And he throws his cigarettes in the bin.
Yeah, but he says it to Ed later. He's like, I've stopped smoking. I quit smoking. And he's like, why did you do that? It's like, yesterday. Just on a whim, essentially. He's like, yeah.
And yeah, there's a great. I love this line, right? Like they've had their argument, and Liz has kind of stormed out and told him to get lost. And David is stood behind him, and he's like, "Oh, basically, I think your 9 lives are up, Shaun." And he's taken off his glasses for a moment to polish them, and that's when Shaun just goes, "Get fucked, Four Eyes." It's the one and only time in the movie where he's not wearing glasses.
And it's also that actor. Like, I remember when I first saw this film, I fucking hated David, like the character, just hated him. And part of it, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, oh, is it part of the actor as well? But then did you ever see
Black Books?
It wasn't that. But for me, it was Run Fat Boy Run, I think was the film. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah,
he's his like a drunk and crazy friend in that, and he's like completely different. I was like, I gotta no. He's just doing really well playing the character David. Like, he's a complete asshole.
No, he's good. He's like in Black Books. He's kind of similar as well. He's just like this alcoholic bookstore owner. He's just a total shithead to people. But yeah, he's like really good actor, Dylan Moran.
Yeah.
People in chat, by the way, are asking like, why am I wearing a shirt and tie? Like, I've not just finished work. This is the outfit that Shaun wears in the movie. Damn it.
I'm about to say the short look. It's not something they intended, but it became like kind of iconic. Like for Halloween, people can dress up with that and a cricket bat.
Yeah. The Halloween after this movie came out, right? I was out drinking in Dundee, and there was a dude there who had the shirt on, the tie, like a stack of records under one arm, and a cricket bat in the other, and I was just like, Shaun! It made me so happy.
It's my favorite kind of like, I don't know, iconography, if it's called that, where it just sort of erupts out of it. Because I don't know if they ever thought that would actually happen, but the idea of having a white shirt, red tie as recognizable as like a Halloween outfit is really cool.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. So I think because Shaun split up with Liz, he goes off to the Winchester to drown his sorrows, and that's where Ed's waiting for him, and he's just like, yeah, fuck it, we'll just get drunk together.
They do. There's something about that scene that's so like familiar in terms of just a friend trying to help out their friend while they're feeling down. It's a very cozy scene, and I think that was deliberate because if you remember, like the end, Shaun's feeling a little better. He's had the shots. They're talking about how life can work out. It's going to be great. And then just in the background, that silhouette getting closer and closer to the window.
Yeah.
And then just puts his hand on the wall. And it's a nice little bit of foreboding. It's like you kind of think like, yeah, this is going to be so bad. And then the plot is like, here I am. Like, I'm finally in.
Yeah. You get that great speech from Ed as well, where he's talking about what they should do. It's like, we'll keep drinking. And then he lists all these pubs. It's like, we'll have Bloody Marys in the morning, which is a reference to the first zombie that they meet called Mary.
Yep.
And it's like everything else is like, we'll go to the King's Head,
which would be Philip.
Right? Yeah, the little princess, which is Liz, and then it's like, we'll get back to shots behind the bar at the Winchester, which is just, again, just like they didn't have to do it. It's just such a cool little thing that they decided to add.
A genuine just like effort in not wasting any opportunities to have things that connect to each other, which is really cool. Because obviously the one that most people know is that each of the bar names in The World's End represent the event in the story when they go there.
Yeah. the other bit that I it makes me laugh every single time is like they're talking. I think Sean's starting to feel just a little bit better, and then the jukebox comes on and it starts playing like "If You Leave Me Now," and it's like, "Oh, who put this on?" And Sean's just like, "It's on random."
It's the way it's all delivered as well. Just who the hell put this on?
Ed has some killer lines, like right at the beginning, actually, where he's like, "Can I get any of you cunts a drink?" Just the way he says it.
Dude, he's a person you'd love to have some drinks with, isn't it? Like, he just comes across that way. He'd be a fun guy. But of course, not reliable for an actual, like, living a fulfilled life. Rather, you're just like, nah, I'll go out for drinks with him.
Yeah, he's just your drinking buddy. But they decide to have a lock-in because Ed realizes like the only solution here is just to get Shaun really drunk, and that'll maybe help cheer him up. So they're talking about like the other patrons in the bar, because like Shaun's saying like, well, Liz had said I'm just going to end up drinking at the Winchester with all those sad bastards, like wondering what happened, and Ed's trying to convince them that they're all really interesting people, so he's making up all these stories about each of them.
Dude, the coccicidal maniac.
Starting the world's first interracial hardcore loop.
It comes across as really genuine. Like, that's the kind of thing that would be happening with you and your friends in the bar, sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. When he's talking about snake hips and he's like, oh, he strangled his wife with a draft excluder and invented the mobile disco. Oh man, so many of the lines. Yeah, he reckons John's like the bar owner is like mafia. That's why he's got a Winchester above the bar. I know.
So there's so many consistent elements for the three movies, but just the pubs sort of thing, they just again feel super British.
Yeah,
they're always a common staple. They're almost a representation of safety a lot of the time as well.
Well, they're always cozy looking places, aren't they? Well, they're meant to be. Anyway. And you know, the kind of place where you can just have a quiet drink with your friends, and in times like this, like where shit things are happening, you can commiserate each other and cheer each other up. And if all else fails, just get absolutely hammered. And you know, that's exactly what they do.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you say, there's that moment where the zombie hammers on the glass because Ed's just like, look, I'm not going to bombard you with cliches, but it's not the end of the world. And then just right on the door, you know. And yeah, when you see them leaving the place, there's like a woman and a man outside, like they're kissing, and they're just like having a laugh at them. And then as soon as they turn away, like the guy's head just like falls right off.
I still have a memory because I was watching this with my dad for the first time. When that guy's head falls off, I remember my dad going, "Oh!"
And yeah, there's the zombie like further down the street where they're like,
I remember seeing that so many times from the trailer, because when I saw the trailer for this film, I don't know if you remember, but they put the "Are you all right?" after running over the guy, and it's like I was like, I have to see this film right now. Like, I didn't care what about it. See this shit.
Yeah, when they realize he's a zombie, and it's like, oh, thank God for that. Just drive away.
He's gonna be dead either way. He's like, that's not the point.
Yeah. And yeah, like the next scene is really cool actually, and it figures into how everything's got set up and payoff, because they're back at Shaun's place and they're you know, Shaun's like scratching records and stuff, like they're listening to electro, and like Pete comes storming in, grabs the record and throws it out the window, and that record becomes like significant later when they're out in the garden and they have to throw it at the zombies that are out there. But again, like it makes total sense because he's pissed off that they've woken him up in the middle of the night with their music, and he has a rant at both of them for like basically pissing them off. And I think he really goes in for Ed at this scene. And I just love how Shaun kind of diffuses it. Pete's about to walk away and Ed just has to go, prick. His delivery is just so good.
The "sort your life out, mate," which feels like the subtitle for the movie. Like if what this movie is about is like Shaun has to sort his life out. Sort of. And if you've seen zombie movies before, they have that little like, "Oh, what's with your hand?" He's like, "Oh, some idiot bit me," and we're all as an audience like, "Oh shit, he's gonna be a zombie."
Yeah.
And then the fucking classic line, "Why'd they bite you?" "I don't know. I didn't stop to ask them."
Yeah. Did I ever tell you about the dub version of this? Like, where it was done for, Funky Pete.
I think they were on the extras for the DVD. I remember loving those. Funny
It's
as hell.
because they intentionally made it sound really off and rubbish, just because like they were having a laugh with it. So it's like
Yeah.
you get Pete shouting at Ed, just like, "You want to live like an animal? Go and live in the shed, you thick funk!" Like, and it's just really badly dubbed in.
Well, when he bursts and he's like, "It's 4 in the funking morning."
Yeah. Brink.
That's the thing, man. I feel like when they were making these movies, they were just having like the time of their lives. Like it seems so much fun to do all of this.
Yeah. I don't know how they got through so many of these scenes without bursting out laughing because it's just so good. But yeah, so like he's been bitten, and I think the last moment of that scene is Shaun staggers into the kitchen and he writes himself a note for the morning, and it's like, win back Liz, like, see mom, sort your life out. So it's like that's his goals for the movie, and he does all of those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, like when he gets up the next day, I think that's when the zombie plague has fully taken hold, because he goes off to the local corner shop to get Cornetto. I think this is where it all came from, because like they didn't plan it to be the Cornetto trilogy or anything. It was just like, what's the most random thing you'd ask for after a night out?
Cornetto.
Cornetto.
It's so casual too, and it just, again, it really feels relatable. You're just like, oh yeah, I could see my friends or myself doing that. Like, yeah, Cornetto.
And you get the great sort of sequence where like everything happens as it did previously, but like everyone's zombified now. So
yeah,
a dude like that went jogging past him the other day is now sprinting past him for his very life because he's terrified. And
yeah, and it's like you just see people in the distance shabbling toward him. You're just like, oh shit! Like, but obviously it's fun because he doesn't realize any of it's happening.
Yeah, it's quite sinister in that shop actually. Like, when he buys the drinks and he's just like looking around for the owner, and you see him off in the distance, like partially in shadow, just shambling towards him. But he's like, he just wanders off before anything can happen. And he gets back, and that's when Ed is like, there's a girl in the garden. And he's like,
I love that whole bit. Well, I love the whole film, honestly, but it's just, it's so well executed. Yeah, because he's behind the curtain, isn't he? Like, he's been there for a little bit, and Shaun didn't even know. There's a girl.
And so they go outside, and she's a zombie staggering about, and like they assume that she's drunk because like she just looks rough as fuck.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's reasonable, because zombies is like, nah.
Yeah, you would never think that just off the top of your head. It's like, okay, she's clearly a druggie or something.
And as she like shambles toward, I keep saying jumble, rumble, whatever word towards him. He's like, oh no, I just got out of a relationship.
Yeah, because she ends up like knocking him over and like pinning him to the ground, and like.
Yeah, and then I think that was in the trailer too, where he's just like panicking. He's like, get her off me, and then he just comes in with a camera.
Yeah.
Just wants to fuck around.
But that's so she, like, Shaun ends up pushing her backwards, and she trips over and falls onto like a metal spike or something on the ground. It's like, I think it's a stand for like a
like a parasol, or you could put a lot of things in it. It's just to weigh it down or whatever. But it's sharp enough to go right through her. And
do you not just love the expression on their faces though?
Yeah,
like, Shaun's properly horrified, but Ed's just like.
Yeah, just like, whoa. Yeah, because Shaun thinks he might have killed her, and then now they're both just like, He starts winding the camera.
Oh yeah, because she gets up and like you see like the camera goes right through her, basically. Like you can see them through the hole in her stomach. And like, I think we better get out of here. And there's another one of them right there. Like, so they have to run inside. And that's when they're like, oh shit, like, are they still out there? And the timing of this is perfect. Like, Ed goes over to the window, opens the curtains, and like they're right at the window.
Yeah.
And then he just closes them, pauses for a second, turns around, and he's like, yeah.
Well, when they turned to first see the fatter zombie, the music like really ramps up, and we're like, oh my god, and then it just cuts them inside. He's phoning someone. He's like, oh, I hope I can find police or whatever. It's just like, oh yeah, they just went back inside.
Yeah. Because it's like Ed's just like, oh, is it ambulance, fire truck? It's like, what do you want a fire engine for? Like anything with flashing lights, yeah, so they're like, what should we do next? And it's like, again, like the most British response ever. Should we have a sit down?
Yeah, have
And
their
they
tea.
just, yeah, they just sit down and like they're watching the news, and that's when like it's warning them like this thing spreading all over the city. You need to barricade yourself in the house and lock the doors. And yeah, that's when you get them just like, oh shit, we left the
Dude,
door open again.
one of the lines I love to reference when the zombie comes in and they both scream, and then Shaun just goes, "Oh, he's got an arm off."
And of course, they tried to throw stuff at him, but all they got is like empty beer cans and stuff, like nothing that'll hurt him.
Yeah. Oh,
And
dude,
then Ed,
Shaun throws a pillow at him.
yeah. I think my favorite bit is like later outside where they throw a toaster at like one of them, and you just hear this really dull kind of echo sound when it hits his head, like boom.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Ed just grabs an ashtray and just smashes it right into his skull and like caves it in. And from I think that's like just game on from Ed for that point. Like he's just like fully into like video game, Resident Evil mode. He's ready to just take on zombies.
He's interesting because in the film, like it depends on what he's up to at the time. He'll be super into the violence, but then sometimes if he's distracted by his phone, he'll just completely miss what's happening entirely. Like when they fight the guy in the garden, if you remember.
Yeah,
Which is
there's another one where like they're stuck in the car with Philip, who's turned into a zombie, and like the child locks are on the car, so they're trying to get out, and Edge just kind of stood there, like not really doing anything.
Yeah, he's like a bit lost in terms of just like what he's, because if you remember as well, he's really kind of pissed off because he's trying to have fun, and Shaun is the one who's like chastising him now, which he's not used to. Like their relationship is obviously that he kind of gets Shaun to do whatever he wants, but Shaun's getting more and more of a backbone as the film goes on.
Oh, I love the scene where Shaun just explodes at him outside the Winchester, and he's like, I've stuck my neck out for you so many times, and all you ever do is fuck things up.
That's what at the core of these films. These two's relationship is usually there. It's really important.
Yeah.
And that's I find amazing about the three films. They have a different dynamic every time, and they play completely different people doing different things, and it's really refreshing. And then, yeah, like by the end of the film, as much as he's ripped into shreds for different things, they obviously have their moment of like, yeah, they're really good friends still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think like by that point, Ed's kind of realized the error of his ways, and he's like, he's kind of willing to sacrifice himself so that Shaun and Liz can escape. And that's his moment of growing up a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great arc for every character involved in this. But so they having killed that one, like that's given Ed the boost, and he's like, yeah, we could take on the other two outside. And they just they go outside with just a big stack of like useless shit from the house, like plates and stuff. It does nothing.
It all follows, but at the same time, you're like, "God, this is so fucking dumb." Like they were, in the house. Like we saw that hitting them with an ashtray worked, so yeah, let's just get some stuff. And, let's just try it, see what happens. This is our great plan to fight against the zombie invasion.
And again, it's just it's so completely British because, like, if this was in America, like everyone would have guns and they'd be able to shoot the zombies, but like we just don't have them here, so like nobody's trained in any kind of survival situation, or nobody's prepared for it, so they would resort to stupid stuff like this because they don't know any better. And it's not until Ed picks up the record that Pete threw out the window last night, it damages one of them, and they're like, oh shit, we can do this. And that's when they must have gone back into the house, got Shaun's record box, and then brought it back outside again.
And I love it because the whole scene, those two zombies, they're walking incredibly slowly.
Yeah.
Like, never quite get to them while they're just discussing how they're going to do this, and then going through which albums they'll destroy and which ones they'll keep.
Yeah, and it's like, all of the albums from Shaun's youth, like Shadi and stuff, and he's like, I like it. And then it's like, Batman soundtrack, throw it.
Yeah, and he throws one, and he's just like, "Oh, why'd you know?" And he's just like, "Oh well, like it's gone now. It's too late." And then to open his shed, he just falls into it.
Yeah, because I don't think they even know what's in it. It's like one of those things that they probably never bothered with. But yeah, they've got like cricket bats and shovels and stuff. And Ed even asked them, "Which one do you want, girl or boy?" And like Shaun's like, "First one."
Yeah.
So like, yeah, they batter them to death and kill them, and you just see them like in the next scene, they're just covered in blood, just eating their cornettos.
Yeah,
Shaun's just looking absolutely shocked. So I think that, yeah, this is where they realize that they have to go and save Liz. Like Shaun needs to go and get her, and he's coming up with his plan for what he's going to do. And like, yeah, there's two things, I guess. Like they get a phone call from Shaun's mum that they've been attacked and that Philip's been bitten. And it's like, we might have to kill my stepdad. And well, Ed's like, oh, okay.
In terms of filmmaking, it's like she says that, and I think that the audience is kind of expected to be like, oh no, but the subversion is the characters go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, Philip's been bitten. Oh,
he just doesn't give a shit about him. So yeah, Shaun's plan is like, right, we have to go and get my mom, kill Philip. And like every time he does the plan, like it gets a little bit like
quicker,
shorter. Yeah, and like it starts off like, oh, I'm so sorry, Philip, and then they batter him to death, and then it goes to like, sorry Philip. Phil. And then by the end, it's just like, sorry.
I love the cut as well to when they realize like they're gonna have to engage this plan. It's just them at the bottom of the stairs looking up, and he just goes, Pete, because he's worried he's a zombie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So there's no response, so they assume that Pete's gone. And so Shaun goes upstairs, and I think he's just like taking a piss or something. And that's when Pete appears in like the shower unit behind him.
The reincorporation. He moved it last time, and then he's like, we need to talk about, Ed moving out and stuff. And then this time it's just his silhouette in the shower.
Yeah. And so Shaun's like, oh shit, like backs away from him and just closes the door. And so I think they just head off outside, and they grab Pete's car and head over to Lizzie's first of all to get her.
Well, don't miss out on the absolutely fantastic payoff of he looks out his little the mailbox thing, and then he's like, no, there's none, we're all clear. And he goes, really? And he moves slightly to the left. He's like, oh no, there they all are.
Yeah. And they're still moaning and stuff the whole time. Yeah, like that. I think that's the bit where he gets hit by the football as well, which is like, the kid that was harassing him earlier is now a zombie. So it's like, how the fuck did he kick a football? It's like, it's the matter.
Again, like Shaun very scared by the whole situation, and Ed's just like, oh, piss off, like it's a little kid.
Yeah, so they get in the car and like they, hightail it over there. I think Ed's got like a tape where he's got like heavy metal music that he can play as they go. I remember tapes. Remember when they were a thing?
It's weird. This film feels like it's from a different era almost now. Even though when I was watching it, it's like, yeah, this is all the tech we were using.
Yeah, he'd have to Bluetooth his phone into the car or something like now. Damn. But that's when they run over the dude who's just on the street. And I love the little montage actually just before this where they're driving along and Shaun's looking out the window and there's like, ambulances with a body bag in the back that's half piled out and like the body's moving. There's like families trying to run out of their houses. Like just a really quick montage of a city just disintegrating. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you get the radio is talking about like the horrors of everything. Obviously, there's the really cool when you scan through the channels before the part where they kill the two zombies, and all the channels line up to say it's like a they all line up to say something basically that describes what's happening completely and explicitly. But Shaun's obviously scanning through them without paying much attention.
Yeah, it's really really clever little bits and pieces there. So yeah, they get to Lizzie's house and Shaun's trying to get in, and David won't let him in because he's not interested. And I think that's when Shaun has to climb up the railings outside their flat, which he couldn't do before, but now he can. And yeah, that's when he's explaining that he has to, they have to get out of there. And it's this moment where, like I was saying earlier, like David is kind of correct in saying like, yeah, there was like 2 of them outside before and they didn't even know we were here. Like, how many are there now? Like, you've just attracted them to us. If you just left us alone, everything would have been fine.
Yeah, that's the thing. Obviously, he wants to try and repair his relationship with Liz, but at the same time, he would like her to be with him so he can protect her and everything, rather than leaving her in the apartment building, even if that would have turned out to be the best thing for her. Yeah. Obviously, the same goes for his mum and Philip. Maybe they would have been safer if he just left them alone. Well, then again, he probably would have ended up fighting her. Yeah. That scene, by the way, is always really funny because he's gonna kill Philip, and then he's just like, "I'm sorry, Philip." And he's like, "Why?
Yeah.
What have you done?" He's like, "What have you got there?" He's like, "Oh, it's just a cricket bat." And then the mum opens the door to say like hello, and he goes, "Ah!"
Yeah. Well, again, her entrance is like she kind of claps her hand on his shoulder. It's like Shaun, just really, really extreme. But then
Yeah, a lot of them do that.
there's a great little scene there where Shaun and his mum are in the kitchen talking, and he tries to say about did I tell you that when I was younger he touched me, and she just like looks at him and he's like, that's not true. I made it up. Probably shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And she's like, Shaun, you've been acting like a complete child around Philip. You need to repair your relationship. And then you get another great jump scare where Philip comes in and he's like, yeah, and you just see his silhouette in the doorway. It's time for you to be a man, Shaun. And he's got like a bread knife in his hand. You just see him like thinking like, oh, I should probably
the
kill
light
him right
reflects
now.
off it. It's just like, will you kill him? And then it just cuts to him looking really like, ugh, like we have to take Philip with us. Like,
he shuffles out the house like all dejected, like his head's down, really fed up.
so we had all that montage of him killing Philip, and that was just like, yeah, he's coming with us.
Yeah, he just totally pussies out. What I love as well, like, when they pull up to Philip's house, they see his Jag outside, and there's a bucket and sponge there, like he's been cleaning it, which perfectly figures into his character. Like he's a guy who loves his car. Like that's Shaun's one and only memory about him. Like when he messed with his car, Philip chased him around with a piece of wood.
Yeah, like he loves his car more than he would have loved him.
Yeah, and it just makes sense that he was outside cleaning it when he got bit.
Yeah, and then of course that sets up the Ed wants that car. He wanted Pete's car, now he wants Philip's car.
Yeah, because he's like, you go in and deal with it, Shaun. I'll stay here and keep watch. And he's parked up. And then when Shaun comes out again, like Ed's like, oh yeah, the car, I pranged it. And like it's totally fucked, like crashed it into a wall.
You even wonder, like, how did you even do that? And then of course when Philip gets bitten and he's like, give me the keys, he's like, you are not driving this car. Like while his neck is hanging out, he's like, no. Again, just reinforcing that sort of relationship. This is where it's kind of impressive. They have such little time to tell us what the relationship between Philip and Shaun is, but they don't waste a moment, and they manage to get a good payoff for it as well.
Yeah. Because initially Shaun's very almost afraid of him, as you would be towards your dad or your father figure, and he's not prepared to challenge him man to man like that and try and kill him, because you just would never think you'd be in that situation. And then when they're in the car and like Philip's been bitten and he's he's passing away, that's when he opens up to Shaun, and you get that nice scene of him explaining like he tried to do best by him and all that, and it totally redefines their whole like relationship at that point.
Yeah, and he says, take care of your mother, because he's pretty sure he's going to die, and it's like actually sad.
Yeah.
And then of course they still paid off a bit with talk about reincorporation, right? You keep having everyone references Philip as his dad, like at the job with Ed or his mum or whatever, and every time he's like, he's not my dad, like as a point of clarification. But then that last payoff where she's like, we can't leave your dad in there. He's like, he's not my dad. And then she's like, oh, Shaun. He's like, no, he was my dad, but he's not anymore. And it's just like, that's really strong as a little arc there.
No, it is good. He's finally accepted him as being a good man and someone that he probably should have shown more love to, I suppose. And I just love that scene with his mum where he's saying to her, the man that you knew as Philip is gone. There's nothing of him left. And like the zombie Philip just switches off the radio, which
music, yeah.
And Shaun's just like, oh, let's go, shall we?
Yeah.
And yeah, you get the great sort of scene where they have to make their way through like the back alleys towards the Winchester. But just before I go on with that bit, actually, I was going to say about they're stuck in the car with Philip for a few moments because of the child locks, which again is set up earlier on, where Shaun's trying to get out.
As he got through the roof,
Yeah, he has to climb out through the sunroof, and he's like, "Did you put the child locks on?" And Philip's like, "Safety first, Shaun."
While he's dying, he's like, safety first, Shaun.
Yeah. But again, yeah, it's set up so that like it's not a surprise when it actually happens. So they're making their way through the sort of back alleys and stuff, and that's when they run into the other group led by Yvonne, and like everyone's just a mirror image of their own group.
Yeah, and you catch Matt Lucas is at the back there.
Yeah,
A little
one of the
Brit.
guys from League of Gentlemen.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a fun little. I think it's just like these guys have a bunch of friends that are in the business. They're just like, hey, do you want to turn up in this movie for a little bit, just for the fun of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty neat.
Because a lot of the people were in Spaced as well, weren't they? And that was kind of like the
Yes.
inspiration for this movie.
Well, it's unreal to me that like a movie of this quality is like something that kind of came out of just some friends like sort of working together, making stuff that's just working hard. It's just like, man, I kind of wish they'd make more, like because they've stopped at 3 sort of thing. It's just like, oh, keep going. I want more of these, to be honest with you. And I'm pretty confident in their abilities. I'm assuming you're aware of Soho, the film that Edgar Wright's coming out with soon.
Vaguely, I don't know much about it though.
So I think this is like his first almost strict horror movie. It's like more psychological horror, and he's experimenting a bit, and I'm very excited to see that just because he's just one of the people who still makes stuff where I'm just like, yeah, I'll check out everything you make.
Honestly, like, can we just have Edgar Wright like be a script editor for every film in Hollywood? Like, imagine how much better it would be if everything was written to this standard.
I saw some people in chat already mentioning it, but just like you and I both watched Army of the Dead very soon before Shaun of the Dead for this conversation. And holy shit! Talk about night and day in terms of film.
God, I mean, can someone just take Zack Snyder and just make him watch Shaun of the Dead on a loop until he learns something from it?
Well, imagine giving Edgar Wright the Army of the Dead script and be like, fix it up. He'd be like, holy shit, do you mind if I change a lot? Like, I'm going to change a whole bunch.
But imagine if you had a premise like Army of the Dead, but written to the standard of Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, it would be fantastic, I think. Vegas and zombies, mercenaries, it'd be great.
Yeah, because the actual premise for Army of the Dead is really good. I like it. You've got a heist movie, you've got the venturing into a zombie-filled city, you've got like a ticking clock with a nuclear strike coming. Like, all of these things are good. They're good ideas, and you combine them together, you could have a really fun movie. It's just like the implementation is just disastrous.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, we talked about that opening scene in Shaun of the Dead, right? We get almost every character within minutes, and we understand them really well. Army of the Dead, I still can't quite remember anyone's names. I don't really know.
None of them have much of a personality. They're just there to
There was
get killed.
the safe guy. He liked safes.
Yeah. There was the guy that was there to betray them, like the corporate guy.
Yeah, he was evil guy.
And cop guy that they just like shot in the leg and left to die. What lovely people.
Real fucking awkward to watch. Watching my heroes slowly just accept that, yeah, we'll sacrifice this person we don't know because that lady said he was bad. All right then.
Yeah. We'll need to talk about that at some point. But yeah.
We could do one of these for that if you really want to. I've plenty to talk about how bad that film is, but yeah.
God damn, yeah.
This is called Happy Hour, damn it.
I know, yeah. We'll stick to good stuff here. So yeah, they meet their sort of mirror images and have their goodbyes to them, and I think that's I think that's where you get the scene of Shaun like trying to take a shortcut through all these different gardens, and he's like, what's the matter? He never taken a shortcut before, and just tries to leap the fence, and it collapses. Which I think Hot Fuzz did it better. Like, I know
Hot Fuzz is my favorite of the 3 payoff.
The way he staggers forward and just collapses.
Like he knew he was never climbing over it. He just crashes through it. Yeah, I think that when they made Shaun of the Dead, I do not believe for a second that they intended to have like 3 movies. I think they were just making this one, and then they were like, you know what, we can bring this back, we can bring this back. It's like, yeah, let's make them a trilogy. Why not? And
absolutely, yeah.
Seeing the second reference to the jumping the fence moment in Hot Fuzz, I remember in the cinema I was just fucking howling. I was like, this is amazing. I love that they've done this again.
I love as well, like later when they've almost reached the Winchester, and Shaun wants to take a look at the situation ahead, so he just climbs like a little kiddie slide, so he can be like a few feet higher. But it's like it's framed like he's doing this epic task, like he's going up a big ladder or something. It's just like a few feet.
Yeah, the frame just staying where it is, and they're just like, how many are there? Oh, it's like, are there zombies? Yes. How many? Lots.
Yeah. So yeah, this is where his mum gets attacked, I think, and he hears her screaming, and he's like, "Oh shit, mom!" And he uses like a kid's trampoline to like like
Yeah.
flip right over the fence. Like it's so cool the move he does. He doesn't
Yeah,
even hesitate as well. He just does it.
Well, see, I think that's part of where the film is going. It's like when the chips are really far down. He's like, this is him getting motivated. He doesn't even hesitate, like, to take some pretty strong and decisive action. Meanwhile, you've got the fight like breaks out, and you've got the two girls trying to encourage and provide Shaun weaponry to beat him, while the two guys are just like, one of them is really cowardly and doesn't want to get involved. The other one's just distracted by his phone, and it's just like fucking useless. But it's all character driven, and nice bit of comedy too, where you like they pass him the I don't know what you call it. We hit the ball around the pole thing.
Yeah, it's just
and he like
it's a swing ball, isn't it? It's a swing ball thing.
And he's like, right, and he spins it, and then he just hits it with goes, nah, this is rubbish.
Yeah, because you can hear it going like like it's a medieval mace or something, and then it just bounces off his head.
Calls him in rubbish as well. It's again just so British.
Yeah. And then they're like, no, use it like that. And so he stabs him right into a tree and just like impales him on it. And that's when they realize that like there's a big army of zombies between them and the Winchester. And what are they going to do? And that's when they hit upon the idea to impersonate the zombies themselves. This is where Dawn, sorry, I keep calling her Dawn from The Office, where Diane sort of gets her moment because she's a wannabe actress, I suppose, and like she's trying to like give them pointers on how to act like zombies, and so she's looking at him like, he's vacant with a hint of sadness, like a drunk who's lost a bet. She's really getting into the moment of it.
When she's like, Barbara, that's wonderful. She's like, I'm sorry, dear, I was miles away.
Yeah. I love Ed's impersonation as well, because when you see them like shuffling through the field of zombies, he's just going absolutely can't be bothered.
He's like, oh yeah, who died and made you king of the fucking zombies? And then he does it, he goes, oh yeah, that's pretty good. So much banter, and yeah, you get everybody's like individual impressions kind of, and then you see them all together where they slowly try and make it through this whole selection.
Yeah, and I love how there's a wheelchair bound zombie as well. Like,
yeah,
we were doing inclusion back in 2005, people.
Hell yes. I think they had there's like twin zombies as well, right? Like they're the ones a lot of people remember. They were kind of like biker zombies or something.
Yeah. They make it all the way to the end, I think, and I'm pretty sure the soldiers arrive and gun them down or something. Oh no, Yvonne kills them with a golf club.
I think I can't remember if it was if this film, but I think I remember watching like a movie mistakes sort of fun little like compilation for continuity, and I think the two twin zombies cross them like 3 times in that scene, like coming forward and across from them, and it's just like they're teleporting backwards every time we cut shots and stuff.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but a fun scene. Just obviously the rules of this universe are that they won't notice you if you act zombie.
Yeah. It's like, oh, fine, I'll just go with it. And so
I don't think they tried this again, even though it's potentially worthwhile, like to get out of situations. I don't know.
Yeah, and they try to get in. Well, I think Walking Dead does that to some degree, where it's like if you just cover yourself in some zombie blood, then you're okay.
Yeah, they can distract from you, sort of thing.
Yeah, but then it'll probably conveniently rain when that happens. So
Yep.
But yeah, so they make it to the Winchester, but it's locked up, and so they're trying to find a way in. And I think Shaun's got a plan, but like David just kind of takes command and like throws a bin through the window to break in. And I think that's when Shaun has to split off from the group and like distract the zombies so they can escape inside the pub.
Yeah, I think Shaun wanted to go in through the back, lock it, and then unlock from the inside to let them in. But breaking the window means that there's a gap for them to get in. The zombies, I mean.
Yeah. I think, again, because Shaun didn't get an opportunity to explain his plan, like David just kind of acted.
Yeah, and I don't blame David for that. The zombies are closing in and nothing's happening. So you just think, like, fuck this, I'm not dying.
Yeah. And so, yeah, they head inside, I think, and Shaun's mum picks up the flowers that he dumped in the bin the night before. Like, just again, like, great use of this thing that's like a through line throughout the whole movie.
It feels very cool to effect to me. Like what do you use to blast open the window? It's like, well, there's a bin near there, and you empty it to get a better throw on it. Throw it through, and it's like, well, you just emptied the flowers out on the floor now.
Yeah. Really simple, but like really effective. And I think there's that scene as well where Ed's like on his phone, like the zombies are closing in, and they're like, "Oh shit, what do we do?" And like Ed's phone goes off, and he's like, "2 seconds." And, that's where he's trying to like text his mate, and that's when Shaun blows up at him, and he's like, like has the big, like emotional outpouring of like, like you've always screwed up things for me, and like you're not gonna mess this up. And I think that's a moment of realization for Ed, like this. I've been doing him wrong really for a long time. But yeah, anyway, like Shaun escapes and they get inside the pub. And I think they're kind of just like wondering what they should do next. Like there's not really much that they've got going on because nobody's really a leader apart from Shaun, and without him they're a little bit lost. But the return of him is great because like David's pissed off that they're stuck in a pub with no supplies or whatever, and he's like throwing around, packets of crisps and stuff, and he just throws like a packet of hog lumps, and you just see Shaun's hand come out and catch it.
Yeah,
what a great way to bring him back.
Because I think that they try and get us into a position of like this is a bit of a low without Shaun. These guys kind of like are falling apart, but then he's back, and it all feels like it's making more sense again. It's just like.
And it's like a new Shaun because he's like suddenly a lot more confident. He's like, "Oh, I gave the zombies a slip. They're not all that." Trying to like be really blasé about it. But then you kind of realize he doesn't really have a plan. Like, because David's saying, "What are we going to do? Just sit here and eat peanuts in the dark?" And then it flashes to the next scene, and it's dark, and Shaun just goes like, "Would anyone like a peanut?"
And I remember they give us the ticking clock because he does go back at one point to check the fuses, and you see that all the ones he gave the slip right next to the door, just trying to get in. And it basically tells us that they're going to break in soon and that it's not over. Because, of course, it's kind of crazy with this film. I feel like if it was made in the modern day, we might be like halfway through at this point, but you've only got like, I think, a half an hour left at that point, maybe 25 minutes, and the film's done. Yeah, because it's really compact, and it's just like they've got a story to tell. They're telling it, and even when he walks off, the camera pans past, and you see the door to the owners is the knob is moving.
Yes,
meaning that we know they're on the way too.
Well, I love how he goes in and he flicks the fuses and stuff, and like the lights come on outside, so you see all the zombies there, and he just like he closes the little screen on the window, and then just turns away and really briskly walks back into the main bar area like nothing happened.
Yeah, and Liz spots him, and he looks like he's just seen a ghost. He's like, "We're done. Like we've got a big problem." And before that can be dealt with, we have Ed starting up the game machine because he's almost completely oblivious to how bad of an idea that is.
Yeah, because he's won on it, and they're like, "Oh, Ed, no!" And I think that's when the zombies start to break in, isn't it?
We get like one of the most memorable action scenes for a lot of people in movie history. The trying to attack John the zombie while Queen is playing in the background.
That is just beautiful. Because I love how he's introduced, right? Because like everyone's like the zombies are outside, you can hear them moaning and stuff, and like each character kind of puts their hand on the other person's shoulder. Like I think Ed puts his hand on like Barbara. David puts it on Diane, and then like John's hand just comes down on Shaun. He's like, what the fuck?
It's just like peak fun for the movie when that song. I feel like it was this film that made it so everybody's wanted to start using that song and loads of stuff. Same for a Bohemian Rhapsody. That's in like a bazillion films now. Remember, because like it showed up in Cruella, I think, as well.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't remember it from Cruella.
I could have sworn because when we were watching it, I remember referencing with Rags and Franny. I was like, "Good God, Suicide Squad and now Cruella." But it might have been a different song. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, but yeah, like the jukebox comes on, and again, it's a great callback to like the early in the movie
where they're
like, "Yeah, it's on random." Oh, for fuck's sake! And yeah, they. Whoever came up with this idea was just absolute genius. Like they start hitting him in time to the music. Yeah. And yeah, just a great fight scene. Like, and they're hitting him with everything. Like fucking Liz hits him with a fire extinguisher and then sprays it in his face. Just as it gets to, "I'm burning through the sky."
Yeah, and it's nicely filmed as well because you've got the cameraman is spinning I think is it like anti-clockwise while the characters are moving clockwise while John is moving anti-clockwise. So it all like it feels very flowing with the music as well
Yeah,
and hitting in
and
time. Edgar Wright's got a serious like he loves matching the music with what we're seeing on screen, and that is something that like I love the effort. I just really appreciate it because again we're in an era now where playing songs is like cruise control for good film. And
yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's just like they'll play a song and then they'll stop playing the song. They'll be like, "You like that song, right? Yeah, good scene." It's like, oh,
Well, it's amazing how easy it can go wrong as well. Like, it wasn't until you pointed it out in your video about the Snyder cut, where Aquaman's like about to go into the water, and in the Whedon cut, it's like this hard rock kind of song that's playing. It's like, oh, that's cool. This just totally fits with his character.
yeah.
And then in the Snyder cut, it's this weird, like melodic, like slow paced thing. It's like, what the fuck's this? Like, how is this meant to be like Aquaman?
Yeah, you don't really quite get what the point is. It was only when I looked into like what are the lyrics of this song, and it just like expresses a lot of thing about like a king and a person who blah, blah, blah. And it's probably like Zach probably knew the song and thought like, oh, what this song's about kind of matches Aquaman, but then doesn't really like that's the only connection. And so like tonally, you're watching it and you just get really confused. I know loads of people did. They're just like, what are we doing? Like, why is this melancholy?
Yeah, like a really strange choice. But this is just like one example of like just a perfect song for this moment.
Oh, yeah, do you remember they cut at one point to Diane and the mum, and they're both just sort of vibing with the song and the fight?
Well, they've told David to go and kill the fuses so they can switch the music off, and he runs to the back room and he's just flicking all the switches on the fuse panel, and it's making the lights go on outside, and it's like a zombie rave going on.
The door smashes, and then before he can react to that, the other Oda breaks out of the door, and he's just like, Jesus fucking Christ, trying to just close door. Everything is so high strung in that scene.
Yeah, there's so much going on all at the same time. Like, I love how Diane throws darts at the zombie.
Yeah,
and it's like one just goes right past Shaun's head, and he's like, "No!" And then like she hits him with one, and he's like, "Yes, in the head."
Yes.
And she throws another one, and it goes right into his fucking head.
Just screams.
Oh god, it's so funny. And I think it finally ends when Ed just like throws him the Winchester rifle from above the bar, and like Shaun just like shoves him into the jukebox with it.
Yeah, and then we get like almost like a phase 2 of the action scene. It's like this gun does not work. It's like it does. And you know what's really cool? You wouldn't have thought it would be this film that does it, but some of the people noticed I don't mean to shit on it all the time, okay, but Army of the Dead, right, is Dave Bautista's daughter. She like gets like 7 headshots in a row with her pistol or something like that at one point. They do this a lot in movies where everyone's just getting headshots really easily. How much does Shaun fail when he's trying to shoot this rifle in this movie? It's really realistic.
Yeah, he fires like we would. Like he maybe hits one zombie in 4. And it's usually not a critical hit. It'll just be like you'll hit them in the shoulder or something, like where it's not going to put them down. Because that's what you'd be like. Like if you've never fired a gun before, you're not going to be accurate.
Yeah, and it's an old gun as well. It's probably not perfectly sighted. Like there's loads of it's just not going to work out really. You've got like 200 zombies out there, and you've got a gun with like 20 shots or whatever. It's like this is not going to work.
Yeah, I love when they're trying to call it where the zombies are coming from as well, and it's like 12:45, 11:45, and Shaun's like, "Keep it simple."
Top left.
Yeah. Again, great callback to like when they were playing video games, and then that's when he gets his one and only headshot. I think kills one.
It's nice realism again as well, because most people don't operate that way. Like enemy at 2:00. It's more you get a little bit confused sometimes. Just like simple words for simple people, just doing simple things like trying to shoot something.
Yeah. So yeah, really. Just a really accurate sort of feeling of how you would try and defend a room like that when you've just got one gun and you don't know how to fire the damn thing.
Also, someone said, I think it's 29 bullets. And I was like, well, actually. And I know that it feels, again, pretty real if Rags was there. But he's like, we've got this many bullets. And then Ed goes, shells.
Yeah.
Want to get that word right.
Yeah, Ed's just like, he wants this to be like a game of Resident Evil, basically. He's like, I know what to do, But I think that's when Barbara starts to suffer from, the zombie virus that she's been infected with. And that's when you discover that she's been bitten, like earlier on in the movie, and she's been hiding it this whole time. I love, actually, this moment where it's intercut with Shaun trying to reload the rifle.
Yeah,
As she's explaining that she got bit, and she didn't want Shaun to know, and he's just desperately trying to reload this thing with the music kind of like playing, like this really tense moment. And yeah, like that's when it goes from comedy into like serious drama just for a minute.
yeah. I
Or
feel
so.
like this the most dramatic this film gets, even more so than when David dies. Like this is very just his mum's dead, and he has to be the one to kill her. It's like, geez, we got really dark really quickly.
Yeah. And she has that part in scene where she holds up the flowers, and she knew that they were from him. And much like with Philip, they make peace with each other. And what's her final line? It's like, it's been a funny sort of day, hasn't it? Like, just, again, like another totally British thing to say in a moment like that.
And with how nicely they do it, you have Shaun is distracted, Liz is distracted, Ed is interested in what's happening with Barbara because he's already said that he likes her several times in this movie. Then you got Diane is just like, what is happening with all these people? And so who ends up with the guns? David.
Yeah. And so when she passes out, David's got the gun trained on her, and it leads to a big standoff. But where again, like David is kind of right in what he's doing. She is going to turn into a zombie, and so they need to deal with her. But like nobody's willing to do it. And like it's great because Shaun like smashes a bottle on the bar, and he's got it held up against David's neck, and like Ed does the same thing, and like Diane's just like, this isn't exactly fair, and so Ed actually gives her like his bottle so she can hold it up against Shaun.
It's a very reasonable threat to your life. It's like, we're gonna make sure it's fine.
Yeah. And so like I think David's
Simon Pegg's acting as well, by the way.
What's that?
Simon Pegg's acting, he's very into this scene.
Yeah.
Desperately pleading that you shouldn't shoot his mum. It's just like, you believe it is kind of where I'm going with that. He's a good guy, that Simon Pegg. I kind of wish he was used for a little bit more these days instead of Unkar Plutt in The Force Awakens.
1/2 portion.
That was worthwhile, wasn't it?
Yeah, because he manages to make a line like this work where he has to say like, he's never liked me and now he wants to kill my mom.
He's fully, that's his position in the whole film. He doesn't believe that David does anything other than just to try and get at Shaun, which you can easily interpret everything he does for that, even if there's reason behind it.
And I love how he calls him a chartered accountant, and David's like, I'm not actually a chartered accountant, and Shaun's like, well, you look like one.
And then we get what I think is a really fucking strong payoff where he fires the gun, but it clicks, which I think happened earlier, right? When it's like a trailer shot where Shaun fully loads and he's about to fire, he clicks, and then they're all like, safety, blah, 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 blah. And then Ed just goes, cock it.
Yeah.
Like, to get it going. And I think that was David's mistake as well. And of course, he tosses the gun, and at that point, you know that you've just been caught out. You tried to kill Shaun, and you weren't even successful.
Yeah.
And so you kind of just lost your entire position with all of these people now.
Yeah. But he does apologize. It's like that's enough to like snap him out of what he was involved in.
Yeah, he's made a mistake and he knows he has.
Yeah, and he tries to apologize to Liz, and she's like, well, maybe I'm not the one you should be apologizing to. And he's about to apologize to Shaun when the zombies like break through the window behind him and drag him out, and you get one of the most gory death scenes I've seen in a long time, where like they literally tear him limb from limb.
I presume they did that right before that happened, just to make us feel a little bit conflicted on his death and almost like really sad for him. It's just like, damn, this is not what anyone deserves, really. And he just made a few mistakes.
It's followed up with a great comedy moment, though, when Diane grabs one of his legs and she's like, I'm coming for you, David. She's like trying to fight her way through the zombies using his leg as a club.
Did you ever see the extras on the DVD where they say, like, they explain what happened to a couple of people in this film with, like,
like Ed. Yeah, and Diane.
She climbed up a tree. she lived through it or something. I think she just stayed up there until it was over or something.
Yeah. Well, Ed's one was really good because you hear 2 gunshots when he's down in the basement, and he's like, yeah, I shot 2 of them as they came down the stairs, but one of them turned out to be a great big fat fucker who blocked the stairs. So I went underneath and then I quietly died.
Yeah.
It's great. Um, yeah, so she's disappeared out of the story now, and all that's left is Ed, Shaun, and Liz, and so they're trying to hold off the zombies. I think that's when Pete shows up again and like ends up biting Ed, and I'll always be thankful to this movie for giving me the word fuck a doodle do.
Yeah. Fuck a doodle do. And reincorporation as well, where he's like, I said leave him alone.
Yeah. So shoots Pete, but then like Ed's obviously been bitten. And they take shelter behind the bar. And I love how Shaun just like pours whiskey all over the front of the bar and sets it on fire, but he leaves the shell box up there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, where's the shells? And he's like tries to get them. He's like, ah, fuck. And like the bar opens up and like the ex porn star actress like comes through and they're like, and you just hear Shaun go, oh, give us a fucking break. And
Yeah,
like all the shells just start going off, like they cook off in the heat.
It's really like when you see Ed get bitten like twice at the same time. It's just like, no, even though like Ed's kind of an ass, you like Ed. You have to like Ed. He's awesome. And then you just see him. He's like shouting for him over and over again. And then he just fucking slams down on the ground, covered in blood. And goes, what?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, chuck us a cloth, will you? And it's like, Shaun gives him a cloth from the bar to try and stop the bleeding. And so, yeah, the shells keep cooking off, and they end up killing more zombies than Shaun was able to.
Yeah.
And so they open up the trapdoor that's behind the bar that leads them down to the beer cellar. And that's pretty much where they're stuck then. They can't figure out how to get out of there. And they know it's only a matter of time until the zombies break through. And so, you know, they're contemplating like killing themselves because they've only got 2 rounds left.
Yeah.
And they're about to have, I think Shaun's about to like light up a cigarette because Liz kept the packet that he threw away in her flat. Again, just like they didn't need to do that, but like, damn, again, another just like a setup and a payoff from like really early in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's when he notices like there's a lift thing that will take them up to the upstairs.
Well, you do get as well when they're deciding who to kill, and I think Ed is like, "Oh, I've been eaten by zombies. It's fine."
Yeah.
And then after he listens to them talk for a bit about their like relationship, he's like, "Actually, I do want to die."
Yeah, I do want you to shoot me. Yeah. And so yeah, they're getting ready to leave, but like Ed knows that he can't go with them because he's infected, and so he's going to have to stay behind. And I love how this scene plays out because it's not overly melodramatic or anything. It's 2 guys who aren't that great at expressing themselves, just like recognizing, this is where we're going to have to part ways, And I think just like every major death in this movie, it's done really well.
Yeah, they're all like they're really impactful and meaningful. Like there's good reason for why each of them happen, and they mean a lot in the moments of the stories.
Yeah, So he says goodbye to them, and like I love when they're going up on the lift thing, and Liz is like, "Oh, I love you, Ed," and he's like, "Oh, cheers," and then Shaun says it. He's like, "I love you too, man," and he just goes, "Gay." Yeah, because you get that earlier in the movie as well, where he's like, "Oh, I've got to go around and save Liz." I'm like, why? Because I love her. And Ed just goes like, "All right, gay."
Yeah, and I like that bit as well because it's so early on in the film when he's kind of beginning the arc. You even see in Shaun's face when he's like, "I have to save her because I love her," and then he sort of like looks at himself like, "What am I doing?" It's like I'm kind of I guess that's how I feel.
Yeah. And so they make it up to the top, and that's when I think Yvonne and like the soldiers arrive because they're basically facing like an army of zombies, and like these guys just show up and like mow them all down with gunfire.
Which again is a little bit subversive. I think when I first saw it, I was like, well, the world is doomed sort of thing. And this movie is like, no, we made it. We just shot them because that's probably what would happen. Zombies aren't going to be able to do much against the army.
The military would mobilize and like, that would be it. That's why I never really understood things like The Walking Dead or like even when we were watching Army of the Dead. Like, if you have tanks, like, you don't even need to use guns. You can just roll over the zombies. Like, you don't even need to shoot them.
Yeah,
Like,
you're
you
right.
just crush them.
I didn't understand it at all, world building wise. It was like, we've missile launched the place, we sent teams of soldiers in, but nothing's working. We have to use a nuke. And it's like, what do you mean nothing? How is nothing? The main one is killed by a pistol.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
Was,
I don't get
this is in a scene, right, where they're in a helicopter with like giant rotor blades right overhead. Like, I assumed, like, oh, they're going to throw it out and it'll get minced up in the rotor blades, and it's like, okay, that'll be a pretty suitable death. Like, there's no way you could survive that. But it's like, no, just shot it in the head with a gun. Like, wow, really inventive there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty much brings their arc to a close. Like, you just see Shaun and Liz walking off towards the soldiers, like they hold hands, like implying that they're back together now. And then when you see them 6 months later, you know, the world's like moved on from the zombie apocalypse, and like apparently they're now being used as like checkout attendants, or like they're moving trolleys around supermarkets or whatever.
Yeah, and it's called Z Day. What happened was Z Day, and it's 6 months on now.
Yeah,
we even see the guy he worked with is a trolley boy zombie.
Yeah, that was a great little touch. And yeah, Shaun's now like living a happy life with Liz, and their flat's all nice now. But then he goes out to the shed just so he can play video games with zombified Ed.
Yeah, I'd like to think that the film is saying like is a bit of a healthy balance. It's like you don't need to lose everything from when, you know, the enjoyment in life, but he's moved on, things are getting better, but he's still got his friend there, which is
yeah. And I think, you know, that seems to be the real thing throughout the Cornetto trilogy, is like finding some kind of balance between the extremes.
Yeah.
In this one, it's like, you know, finding that balance between your childhood friends and the fun that you had, but also like taking on adult responsibilities. You know, in Hot Fuzz, it's him letting go a little bit from like his obsessive focus on his career and learning to enjoy himself a little bit. And then when you get to World's End, it's you know, moving on from like that high school kind of mentality of like, that was the best time of my life, and it's like, no, you need to like find a new purpose as an adult.
Yeah, that's probably the most darker of the three, because especially like the main characters don't quite have it as strong, both of them. If you remember, because when you're watching it, and it's like, oh, he was bleeding to death, and Simon Pegg left him. That's like the reason he hates him, and then vice versa. We will talk about that another time, I'm sure. It's just like it's that film went a little further than the other two, even, I think, with how serious it wanted to get.
Yeah, I love the scene like right at the end where Simon Pegg's trying to take the final drink in the last pub, and you know they're fighting each other, and that's when he sees the hospital tags on his wrists and the you know, the bandages where he's tried to cut them. And you know, you get that big admission from Simon Pegg's character, like, you know, that was the best time of my life. Like, it never got better than that night. And that was supposed to be the start of my life, but like it was just a downward spiral from there. It's like, damn, that's pretty hard hitting stuff. Like, and again, the performance from Pegg during that scene was just absolutely brilliant.
Well, I just love Gary King. I think he's a really strong character. I love the chronic lying and the manipulation in all of his dialogue. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And it just that, you know, when they're in his car and he's like, oh, I got this tape from like when we were in high school. And it's like all their favorite songs from like 20 years ago. And they're like, where'd you get that? Where'd you manage to dig that up from? And he's like, it was just in the tape player. Like he's just kept that same thing in his car like the whole time. Like he's never moved on from that high school mentality. Yeah.
But yeah, Shaun of the Dead is also good.
It is, yeah. Damn, like just like we've said all throughout this, like the quality of the writing, the way everything is well set up and foreshadowed, and there's so much setup and payoff. Like, it's just so tightly written, and it's just a real joy to watch a film like that.
And that's the thing; it doesn't stop at the writing, right? Like all the filmmaking choices, the sounds, the framing, obviously the soundtrack as well, just trying to match everything that's happening, and obviously the acting, obviously the even just the way that they try and make the scenes tonally like conflict or move on from each other. There's so much to celebrate but thank fuck it's a foundationally like incredible script, because that's obviously what's going to make it so strong in the final product, I'd say.
Yeah. And the whole premise behind this Cornetto trilogy is like taking these like iconic genres of movies that are so unique to America normally, like the zombie flick, the action movie, the alien invasion movie, and transporting them into a uniquely British sort of setting. Just such a genius idea because the comedy potential is right there. Just the way we approach things is so different from say
Yeah.
people in America, and like it's just it's such a great premise. I love it.
Yeah, and I think when it came out, it was sort of considered like, well, that was a fun movie. But as time has gone on for me, I've just been like, it's just like one of the best movies. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, it deserves the credit it earned.
Yeah.
Same for Hot Fuzz, to be honest with you. And like I just think as a trilogy, they're incredibly strong.
Yeah. Each of them has. I think what's great is like they've got the same actors. They're pursuing the same goal of like transposing like as I said, like American traditional genre movies into a British setting, but they managed to do something uniquely different with it each time, and something really interesting. And yeah, like I think World's End will be an interesting one to talk about because, like you say, it's definitely the darkest of the lot. It doesn't have quite as easygoing a sort of viewing experience, but I think it's a really rewarding movie anyway.
Yeah, and I
And
think
like
that
someone in chat was mentioning, the best line of the movie is when Nick Frost punches his hand through a glass door. He just goes,
it's
"Fuck it."
wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Yeah, there's the dialogue again in all three of them really, really strong. Loads of great. Do you remember when I think I lost when he first said like a man of your stature drinking fucking rain.
Oh god, so many good lines. It will be an interesting one to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have super chats here. If you've got a bit of time, we could maybe go through them.
Yeah, let's see what people been saying.
All right. It's always sad though when like someone sends a super chat that's just really unique to a certain point in the chat or the the conversation, and it's like, shit, we don't have that anymore. Give me a second here. Bring it up. Talk amongst yourselves for the next few seconds. There it is. All right, supers.
You rarely come across anybody who doesn't like Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead, like ever.
I think you'd be hard pressed to dislike it. Like I'd really love to hear someone's rationale for not liking that movie. Here we go. So Chucksenhausen says, Mr. Drinker, have you started work on a recommends video for Jurassic Park yet? If so, would be replacing the T-Rex's famous roar with Dr. Weir's scream from Event Horizon. I mean, I sort of semi-reviewed Jurassic Park when I did my Jurassic World review, and I just kept calling back to like, remember how Jurassic Park was so much smarter and so much better written and so much more original than this.
It feels like a tradition for me. Like whenever a new Jurassic movie comes out, I end up watching a lot of them, reminding myself through Jurassic Park. Like when I saw this film, I was beyond in love with it, and then every film subsequently, even The Lost World, I was just like, meh. And with Fallen Kingdom being, again, because that's just the era we're in, where it's just like, wow, I didn't think we could get this bad. But Dominion is on its way out, right? That's in maybe 2 years or something. And I'll probably be checking that one out, as will you. Let's see how they destroy the franchise again. Maybe they'll do it well this time. Who knows?
I mean, like I remember going to the cinema back in '93 to watch like the first Jurassic Park movie as a kid, and that sense of just absolute awe and wonder at what you were seeing, because like they even referenced it in Jurassic World, where it's like they're dinosaurs, wow, enough. And that's really what it was back then. Like you were just amazed by what you were seeing. It was so cool. And they've never been able to equal it because you never can. Like that original movie was just so special because it had never been done before. Stephen Lanuto says, the drinker rages in his town with his kilt on and sometimes with the kilt off. It was a nice excuse to put my kilt on actually for that Highlander video. I'm not going to lie, like it took fucking ages. Like putting on a kilt is a complicated business. Put it that way. Like they are big and they've got lots of buckles and stuff, and it's been a while since I've done it. Doug Keller says, Drinker, which Charles Bronson movies would you be willing to cover in a video? I'd recommend the film Rider on the Rain from 1970. I mean, I think he was well known for the Death Wish movies.
Yeah.
Old Chuck. I loved him in The Great Escape as well. Thought he was cool in that. Unhinged Entertainment says, Drinker, MauLer, and Shaun. That's the three-way I can get behind.
Hey.
Nice. RRTNZ says, Drinker, you magnificent beast. Cheers from New Zealand. Listening on my way to work. I recommend True Romance, 1993. Zero fucks given, 90s awesomeness. You're the best. Thank you very much, my friend.
Have you seen True Romance?
I feel like I have, but it's been a long time.
It's the film that often gets mistaken for sometimes gets mistaken for a Tarantino movie. It's his script, but it's not his direction.
Who was in it again?
Oh, loads of people. I'm going to blank them all. I'm going to IMDb before I do. But obviously, it's one of the ones Gary Oldman plays like a drug dealer. Loads of people remember that role. Christopher Walken. He's like a mob boss as well of some kind.
Right. Starting to come back to me, I think.
What's his name? Christian Slater. He's like the main character. Dennis Hopper is in it as well. Val Kilmer.
Right. Yeah, I feel like I have seen it, but I'd need to rewatch it.
I think the funniest part is like Sam Jackson's in it for about 1 minute, and he just gets killed because he's like it's before he was famous, and it's just like, oh my god, that's so wow, okay.
Was it the provocateur extraordinaire says, Greetings, Drinker, you've got red on you, so here's some cash to remove that bit of Tatiana from your wardrobe. Yeah, they'll never find the body. Piotr Marecki gave me $10 so thank you. Also from the provocateur extraordinaire, Longman, I've made it to episode 111 since January 2021. I didn't want this, I didn't ask for this, but here I am, a student close to completion of Rag Sue's The Spirit of War. After 6 months, I'm nearly through the arduous middle.
Wow. Well, the middle keeps growing over at EFAP. We got new episodes all the time, all kinds of things. But yeah, hope you're having fun.
I love that there's like actual arcs for various people throughout the history of EFAP.
Yeah. People
have gone on really emotional journeys through that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was $50 from Provocateur Extraordinaire, so thank you very much, man. Farewell Thunderchild says, how do, sirs? How can I contact you about the Dog Soldier stream? I tried Twitter. Wellesley McWells is my name there. Right, were you wanting to stream with me about Dog Soldiers, or are you trying to find my review of it? Yeah, probably the easiest way is just to email me. Like if you go to my business contacts on the About page on my channel, you can get me through that, and I'll find your email that way. So yeah, just let me know. Roger H gave me a thumbs up for $2 Canadian, so thank you. Yeah. Dominic the Donkey says, hello lads, I got work today, so I can't stay for the entire stream. Hope you two have a great day. Also, don't know if the Shaun outfit was intentional, but Drinker looks great in a suit.
I feel like anybody who sees you like that in a Shaun of the Dead conversation is like, oh, that's a coincidence. And be like, yes, totally a coincidence.
So many people in chat were like, why are you wearing a shirt and tie? Like,
shameful. They should be able to know immediately.
It's like I even put like the picture of Shaun like on the thumbnail for this video, so it was really obvious. But yeah, I guess it wasn't obvious enough. I should have put red on me. Yeah, I should have murdered a few people. The Provocateur Extraordinaire also says, seriously, you two guys inspired me to start a channel, so I thank you both. Please continue your works. That's all I can afford for today. Go cash your checks now. Well, it's very much appreciated, man. Thank you.
I was going to say, don't worry. It'd be harder to shut us up about movies, I think.
Yeah. Wolf's Pain says, just finished rewatching Speed Racer. Got to say it's the best not Edgar Wright movie I've ever seen. Also one of the best anime adaptations.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Farewell Thunderchild says, dogs, unlike First Order crewmen, can look up. Indeed.
Oh, yeah.
I can verify that dogs can definitely look up, because mine has.
Well, that was the thing, right? He was like, it's not deactivated. He's like, see it? He's like, yeah, but dogs can look up.
After yanking a fucking dart right out of his head. I love how there's a little spurt of blood when he does it as well.
Hmm.
Benedict Barnes says, I love the Cornetto trilogy, but the third just lacks the charm of the first two. Peg using the film to highlight the perils of his own alcoholism feels too heavy. Evidence of Peg being Hollywoodized has to include a message/moral lecture.
Oh, I wouldn't
Did,
go that far.
did Peg, did Peg suffer from alcoholism?
I haven't looked into that, but I mean, the film felt really genuine, exploring the idea.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was being preached to at all.
I mean, I think each of the Cornetto trilogy movies, like it does have a kind of moral message, or at least it explores issues of growing up and leaving behind your sort of childish mentality. And I
I
don't think
feel
it was
like,
pandering or anything like that. It was just an idea.
I think you often it's hard to come across like really great movies that you can't dig out some kind of message. Like we watched Mask of Zorro the other week.
Yeah,
Even that, there's a lot in there about revenge and balancing your life and sorting justice rather than just going for blood and controlling yourself and understanding like I don't know, just how best to help people and stuff. There's lots in there, and if someone was like, "Oh, it's preachy," I'd be like, "Well, no, it's really, I don't think so. It's fine." And I think we could all agree that some of these things are really good to think about. I think that the Cornetto trilogy kind of celebrates like pub culture and stuff, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, you can take it too far. Absolutely.
yeah. And I always took, the like Simon Pegg's character from The World's End. It wasn't so much that he was, a drunkard. That wasn't his problem. His problem was that he was stuck in the past, and like drinking was like his coping mechanism for it.
Yeah, that's how he associated that time of his life. Was
Yeah, like
drinking.
he's got this like rose tinted view of his time in high school where he was like king of the hill, and everything since then has just been a disappointment, and so he drinks to try and forget that. But that was his fundamental problem, and that's the thing that he kind of tries to work through over the course of the film. So
Yeah, and like I had a couple of friends who resonated a lot with what they were doing in that film. I felt like it was just really on point. And I still think it's funny as hell, that movie. There's loads of fantastic jokes in there.
mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I
And
think
it's the best action of the three as well.
Yeah, best fight scenes for sure. And yeah, I think I imagine as you get older, like you identify more and more with that kind of story of The World's End.
Yeah, I think you'll always look back at a particular portion of your life and be like, those were the best times, and I want those back, sort of thing.
Yeah. And it's not always true because like you tend to romanticize a lot of aspects of your life when it's easy to just say, oh, it was better back then, and if only I could go back to that, then everything would be great. And it's like you just conveniently forget about the bad aspects of it.
Look at this, all this preview of when we're actually going to talk about that movie.
I know, we need to stop. We'll get drawn into a tangent. Taker 610 says World's End ending. It was a bit disappointing. I mean, the world actually did kind of end, so I don't know what more you can get from it, really.
I suppose because again, we don't want to talk about it all here because we'll end up repeating ourselves when we finally go over the film. But I guess they were upset by. Well, I wouldn't even want to speculate. I'm not sure what was disappointing about it for them. But I suppose we can go over it when we watch the film.
Yeah, there'll be time. Michael Kenny says, "Cheers, gent. Shaun of the Dead is so good. It's my favorite zombie movie. MauLer, just finished watching the Father video. Insanely well done."
Oh, thank you. Obviously, that's just another movie that I thought was fantastic. And the neat thing about that is that it's pretty new. I think it was released in 2019 for the first time, but it's in UK theaters now, I think, actually.
Yeah, I saw it advertised on Film 4 as well over here.
Was it 2020? Yeah, it's hard to find. I've had a lot of messages from people saying like, "How do you even watch this film?" It's like for some reason it's not on Amazon or Netflix or just all your standard approaches. I think you just got to wait a bit and it'll finally be out because it's really weird for an Oscar-winning film, to be just so unavailable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing it. But it's weird. I almost feel like I'm dreading it at the same time because the footage that you showed in your video and the way you described it. It seems so honest and so kind of raw that it's almost going to be uncomfortable viewing.
Yeah, it is a bit. It starts off pretty soft, but then you can see what's happening as it goes on, and then Ashley Hopkins kills it. So it was funny. I can't remember if I told you this before, but the whole reason I watched it was there was all that drama about like the Oscars and stuff, And I was like, oh, who won? And then my friend was like, oh, it was Anthony Hopkins. I was like, holy shit, he won an Oscar? And I was like, he hasn't won one since Silence of the Lambs. It's like, what did he do? There's like a film called The Father, and I remember saying to my friends, like, I doubt he does a performance that outdoes Hannibal Lecter, but I mean, yeah, I'd be interested in seeing it, and I was blown away by it.
Yeah, yeah. I think because I'm so used to seeing Anthony Hopkins playing these like very composed, cool, analytical sort of characters that are quite soft spoken.
Yeah,
To see him, I guess how he ends up by the end of the movie, like reduced to like a shell of a man who's just frightened and vulnerable and crying. Like that's about to be a hell of a thing to watch.
yeah. And the interesting thing is that he's often known as like one of the actors in Hollywood that has like the best memory. Like he'll often talk about like full conversations he had in like the 50s or whatever with different people he met and how his career was starting up. He's like he's really good memory, but he's playing a character that basically has a completely non-functioning one.
Yeah, so yeah, it's an interesting thing to be doing. Nick B says dogs can't look up. Big Al says so. Indeed. Big Al also says that John's connected and he's North London Mafia, so who knows? J Train says, hey Drinker, do you think you'll ever do a video or discussion on Faulty Towers or any of the Monty Python movies or TV shows? Love your work. Well, thank you very much. Man, Faulty Towers is a show you absolutely would never get nowadays. That's
I was
for sure.
going to say, if you ever do anything on Faulty Towers, I'll be up for that. I fucking love Faulty Towers. That and Blackadder were like very formative for me.
Yeah. It's such a shame because, the Brits, we have like a kind of unique style of humor. And I think it's really exemplified in things like Faulty Towers or things like Only Fools and Horses and stuff.
Yeah.
Like just these classic shows from the 80s that were they nailed it. And they would just not be allowed to get made nowadays. I'm just glad
not.
they still exist. You can still see them.
A lot of the humor in Faulty Towers comes from the fact that you've probably upset somebody, and you strictly aren't allowed to do that right now. It's like, oh,
it's like so often it's Basil trying not to offend people, but being more offensive, through his efforts to avoid it. And that very British thing of not wanting to make a fuss. And not wanting to like make a fool of yourself in public, it spirals so often with him, and it's great.
And it's one of those shows where you like a couple of episodes in, you're like, oh, I'm watching this whole thing, and then it ends really quickly because that's what British shows of that time sort of did. Where you just be like, they did 2 seasons, they're like, yep, this is our story, we've done it, we're moving on to other things. And you're like, no, please.
They didn't feel the need to keep milking it forever.
Well, as far as I'm aware, John Cleese had to be talked into doing a 3rd season for Monty Python because he was like, no, we've done it. We've done our jokes. We've created the project. It's finished.
Yeah. Imagine that. Imagine having so many ideas. You just wanted to move on to the next thing.
Well, it's honestly unreal to think about. Like the idea that you have a story to tell, you have jokes to deliver, and that there's an end to that. I honestly think we've lost that these days. There's no such thing as an end to a story now.
Well, no, because like it's so rare for things to really take off and become successful that when they do, you just want to keep exploiting it as long as you possibly can because you don't know when the next one's going to come along. Whereas I suppose back then there was less competition. And you could just do this for a season or 2 and then move on to the next thing. You'd done your bit, and then it was time to explore new ideas, and you'd probably get another show commissioned. Now it's a totally different landscape.
Yeah, now it's like franchise everything, to the point where you try to build the franchise before you even have your first movie.
Yeah.
I saw somebody recounting how they failed the Dark Universe in a video, and they mentioned. They mentioned 2 movies that weren't The Mummy with Tom Cruise and Dracula Untold, and like the implication being like they've tried to start it 2 times already, and I was like, it's like they tried to start it like 4 times. Each of these movies is supposed to be the foundation. Did you watch Dracula Untold?
Fuck. Yes. Was it Luke Evans that was?
Yeah.
I've seen that one.
The reason I bring it up is that it's so funny. They try and do Iron Man at the end, where basically like he's in the modern day and he's fully ready and stuff, and then Charles Dance is like Nick Fury, like I'm putting together a team. You're like, what the fuck is happening? What?
Yeah,
he's like, let the games begin.
Well, I mean, when you look at even things like Terminator Genisys shit and Dark Fate. each of those was just an attempt to jumpstart a new franchise.
Yeah, they wanted a trilogy for both of those. It's just
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is that? Do you remember when people like had an idea and then they wanted to make the idea? Like,
Yeah.
that was cool.
And they completed their story and then they moved on to something else. That was good. I like that. Yeah. 2A says, could anyone but Edgar have directed this movie? Nope. Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's one of his movies. You know, you're watching. It's like, yeah, that's Edgar Wright. It's why I think everyone was really sad that he didn't stay on with Ant-Man, because if Edgar Wright had created Ant-Man fully in the MCU, think how much character we'd have in the MCU right now if he was one of the directors as well.
Because Ant-Man could have gone from being like the weakest entry in the MCU to like one of the best. Like
most people would remember it. People barely remember what the plot line of either Ant-Man movie even is. It's like, I think he steals stuff. I don't know.
If you were to ask me what happens in Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm struggling, man. It's got something to do with quantum. That's all I can tell you.
Yep. And then when the film is like, haha, you guys are just saying quantum, I was like, you can't just... They lampshade all the time with modern writing. They think it's like an excuse to get out of shitty writing when they're like, we know we're shit. It's like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
Pointing out how shit you are doesn't make you any less shit.
Yeah.
User Error 300 says, do you think Disney are ruining movies in general? They're ruining their own movies retroactively. You know, they're bringing out things like Cruella.
Yeah, it's like a combo.
Rewrite history.
We watched Free Fat movies. We did 101 Dalmatians in 61, 101 Dalmatians in 95, and then Cruella. It's so interesting watching the films because you get a specific vibe of like the motivation behind each of them. Obviously, the classic was people had an idea and they very creatively represented it through some hard work, and they made it really enjoyable. The 90s one is like this crazy experimental adaptation of something that can't really be adapted that well to live action, some of it at least. Like, it's all very like zany and insane, and there's some stuff in it I was just like, I couldn't even fucking remember this happened. Like, the 90s were crazy with some of the films in terms of just events that take place, but at the same time it had some heart. It was like, we want to make something fun, we want to make something a little wholesome. It's like, hope you have fun with it. But it's one of those ones where they remake the film, you're just like, it's not very good, but hey, you know, whatever. Then you watch Cruella, and you can't help but be incredibly cynical about what their goals are.
Oh yeah,
and you just think about the meta we're in right now for how films are being made, and you just like, ugh.
Well, we kind of discussed ourselves about like the moral compass of this movie just being absolutely broken beyond fixing. You're trying to justify the actions of a character that wants to murder animals. You know, and you're trying to frame her as some kind of cool hippie, like punk rocker character that we should like, secretly kind of like and think is cool. I was like, no, fuck off! Like, stop trying to like rewrite history and make her into something she isn't.
Yeah, because she's not really Cruella if you compare her to. Well, so this is the thing. I don't even know if they're trying to argue that it's a prequel to either of the live action or the classic, because
I as far as I know. All right, it's meant to be a prequel to the live action. It is meant to directly, follow on to that.
It's a bit weird because Roger was white. I don't understand what happened there. It's just like, it's a bit weird if you're sharing continuity. I don't understand how that works, but yeah, she's not the same character. Like they tried to get her, because if they made Cruella 2, right, and then their goal by the end of the movie was to have her skin dogs, I'd be like, you can't do it. You can't have that and have it be a good guy. It's impossible. Or even an anti-hero, or it can't be like Joker, where you see a man who's torn down in every aspect of his life until he basically snaps. That's not the same. You're not going to give me a story where Cruella is like, every single person she loves is eaten by Dalmatians, and so she skins them. It's like, her motivation is she likes fur. That's it.
Yeah.
So you can't do this. It's like, she's a bad guy. Stop trying. It's really fucking cringe. But they're going to carry on doing it. And they want to do it with more, obviously.
Yeah, apparently they're going to do it with Ursula from Little Mermaid, and it's going to be Melissa McCarthy who talks to Claire. Like, no, stop trying to do this to these characters. Like, I don't want their backstory. Like, the time to give them nuance and a bit of depth would have been in their actual movies. You can't go back and retroactively do that stuff.
Yeah, because like, if you were set to write her to be as understandable as possible, it's like, well, I guess she's got to think of animals as much less than the average person does. She's got to think of them as just objects and stuff, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to even justify why she's doing this in the first place. Like, skinning puppies, It's like a meme. That's like the thing you say for the person who's the most evil. It's like they want to skin puppies alive. It's like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just the cruelest thing to do.
Well, I think that's what that's what gets every person, because like everyone would recognize, like, animals are just innocent in general terms. Like they
Yeah,
don't see the world in terms of malice or anything like that. They're just, they're just innocent creatures. And so anyone who wants to harm them is just by default evil. Like you can't really
pretty
redeem a
much. Yeah.
person from that.
And yeah, so I don't know, Disney's sort of approach with a lot of stuff, you can pin a lot of different motivations, and it's just generating fucking garbage, like insane. When we booted up the original and you see like the Disney sort of stamp of approval, I just remember a time where I was like, this means the movie's good. It's like, I know what we're in for. We're in for a good ride. But nowadays it's like, oh god, what are we gonna have now?
It's this really like disheartening combination of like live action remakes of stories that they've already told, right? So it's just like the height of laziness, where it's like, yeah, we're just literally going to take the same script and just do it in live action. Great. Or these weird villain origin stories where you're trying to paint your villains as like, kind of likable anti-heroes. Like, what are you even like? What does your company even stand for nowadays? Like, you used to think of Disney as like it would be like wholesome family entertainment, that would give you some kind of nice moral message at the end of it, and it would probably be a really slick, well-produced package.
There's a lot
Now,
of
what the hell is it even trying to tell people? What is it trying to be?
yeah, a lot of people try to figure out what got Cruella created, and from what I've heard is two elements: being Maleficent, being like relatively successful, and Joker. Like apparently those are the two things that made them think Cruella's the thing to do. And to me, I'm just like, what the hell? You try and connect those pieces. You're like Joker, but with
It's a
Cruella
hell of a
Deville.
leap. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Well, I've said before, I bet you they will never do this with the male villains. It'll always be the women, because they're going to try and paint them as some kind of misunderstood anti-hero.
well, there's they had that little poster with all the villains from Disney, and there's like several like demonic creatures that are like the evilest of the male ones, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll see a prequel for that. They live in hell, and their dad was a bit mean or something. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing?
Yeah. It's insane. I don't know what they're doing now. Marksman of 117B says you guys should check out the movie Come and See.
I've heard of that. Which one is that?
Couldn't tell you actually. Off the top of my head, I need to look it up.
Yeah, that's familiar to
Come
me.
and See. So it's a war drama. It's an old one actually. Soviet anti-war film directed by whatever. Right, the focuses on the Nazi German occupation of Belarus. Yeah, so a young teenager who becomes a partisan fighter joins the Belarusian resistance. Seems like it's pretty hard hitting stuff, but yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, I don't often you don't often think of the Soviets as having like a real like film industry. I don't know. I just imagine it's all like propaganda, but I suppose they need entertainment like everyone else.
Preferably.
Yeah. Charles Hurst gave me $50 for a super sticker, so thanks very much, man. Dominic the Donkey says Shaun of the Dead is better than Army of the Dead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with that. What I can gather.
I don't think many people would debate that one. Yeah.
I've honestly not seen much love at all for Army of the Dead. So it's a weird one to have love for. You can't quite see how it would work. There's a bit of fun in it, I guess, but there's a lot of weird stuff.
It's like everything that Shaun of the Dead excels at, Army of the Dead just falls flat with. Like the humor, like most of the jokes fall flat with Army of the Dead, whereas Shaun of the Dead, you'd be laughing all the way through the movie. But then the moments of real like drama and tragedy, again, the Shaun of the Dead can pull out of the bag just so unexpectedly. Like it feels really forced and labored in Army of the Dead. So it doesn't really do either aspect particularly well. I mean, I will say like the action scenes are all right. Like just watching Batista like gunning down hordes of zombies with a machine gun is kind of cool, but you can do that with any decent fight choreographer. Yeah,
like I said, I was even surprised when I saw the World's End sort of fight scenes. They reminded me of Kingsman. I was like, what? When did we start doing this? Nice,
Yeah. I love the concept, and World's End, where they were operating on the idea that the more drunk you get, the better you become at fighting, and so they become like more proficient as the movie goes.
Yeah, like Nick Frost is like the best fighter they've got. In one of their last fights, sort of thing.
I love when he just gets the two chairs, like the two pub stools, and he's like, "I fucking hate this town." Jesse Farkas gave me $5. Says, "You got red on you." I do. Not enough, indeed. Doug Keller says, "What other Clint Eastwood movies would you consider doing videos on? I'd recommend Coogan's Bluff and/or Two Mules for Sister Sarah. I'd love to do the Dollars trilogy. Like talk about them. Fantastic movies.
Have you done Unforgiven?
Yeah, I reviewed that one.
I think that is actually my favorite Western. I adore that movie.
Yeah, it came along during that sort of revisionist period, like right at the end of when Westerns were still getting made, and it's just such a great love letter to the Western genre. I also really like In the Line of Fire, like for Clint Eastwood. Like him and Malkovich are just great in that film. So I'd love to talk about that at some point as well. ZCX 1972 says, "Romero, we're Americans, let's head to the mall. Edgar, we're Brits, let's head to the pub." That's it.
You can. It comes across in the movie. It's just come. They're like, it's a good idea, right? Like we should do that. That's a good idea. Go to the pub. So it feels safe.
Yeah. We'll wait for all of this to blow over.
Yeah.
I love how Ed just goes perfect as well. That's a little reference to Darling Buds of May. Like so random but perfect. Captain Titforce says, "Drinker and MauLer talking about Shaun of the Dead. Sign me up." Good stuff, and thank you for the donation.
Yeah, man.
Graph this says, "MauLer, are you ever going to do a video on Avengers Endgame? What did you think of it?"
Well, so we did the EFAB when it first came out, and I feel like we shredded it. We had ER on for that, who is notoriously very anti-MCU, and we just, as we were going over it, I think we started to think it was even worse as we were thinking about everything in it. But I don't think it would make much sense for me to make one now. I think Fringy is making one, actually. A video explicitly about how bad Avengers Endgame is, and if he makes that before I've even thought about making one, and he does a good job, which I expect he will, I don't feel like I'll need to. Obviously, Fringy will be going into the kind of detail that I probably would. Like, it's going to be like over 2 hours of him going into how they destroyed everything in that movie. And that as much as WandaVision, Falcon the Winter Soldier, Far From Home, and everything else that's coming out has a load of problems to do with the blip, it's like Endgame is the one that did it to all of them. Put them in this position,
That is true. Such a step down from Infinity War.
Yeah. Don't know what happened, to be honest with you.
I know. I think it was just that rush to try and tie everything up, and like, damn, they had a hell of a challenge there. I really didn't like the time travel plot. I hate when things do time travel to try and fix everything. It's just like you introduce so many problems going forward from that point.
It ends up making a lot of the characters really dumb too, because of the options they have. And you're just sitting there like as an audience member, like, whoa, but why just the obvious one that a lot of people reference. It's like, we have limited PIM particles. It's like, get more? Why can't you get more?
Seems pretty obvious, yeah. Slumlord in chat here was saying, "Would you review From Dusk Till Dawn?" Yeah, absolutely. I love that movie. What a great switch from like a heist kind of hostage movie. Kind of road trip movie to being a vampire zombie survival movie. It's great.
I think that's a film that I managed to see when I was young without knowing that was going to happen, and so I remember just being like, "What the hell am I watching? Like, this movie is so weird."
Yeah, it totally caught me off guard as well. I just remember watching that with my dad, actually, and the Selma Hayek dance scene with Quentin Tarantino, and it was just incredibly awkward.
It kind of fits in with Predator in that way, right? Like a film that's just not the film you think it is by the time you get even 20 minutes in.
Yeah. I love, because obviously in Predator it's a bit more gradual, switching from one to the other. Like the hints are kind of there from the beginning, whereas
and the team's confidence wears down as we progress.
Yeah, whereas with Dusk Till Dawn, it just happens like that. It's just on a dime, it just flips to like a whole different movie, and you're like, oh shit, like where'd that come from? It's great though, it's good fun. The Lizard Machine says, "The Bill Nye death scene is a cinematic great. Telling Shaun he always loved him and wanted him to be strong brought a lump to my throat." Yeah, like we were talking about earlier, it's just a really well shot scene, really great, great dialogue, and just a great like culmination for their character arc.
And the thing is done really quickly, and a lot of it is very casual lines, but you can piece the history together pretty quickly. Shaun's dad, obviously out of the picture, and then replacement dad being the step. He's never wanted his mum to move on. In a way, you could argue that kind of fits in with the thematic element. Like he wants her to stay not in the going forward with a new person, but staying back with the idea that it's like, no, my dad is gone. This guy isn't my dad. And then yeah, like the valuing the car over him, to the point where their relationship was like damaged, because it's clearly you don't know how old he was when he was chasing him in that garden, but Shaun is nearly 30 now, so who knows how long ago that was, and that's all he mainly remembers and seems to references it quite a bit. And so yeah, the relationship's just been destroyed by all of that. But then when it comes down to it, right at the end, he's just like, yeah, I care about you and I want you to take care of your mum and be a good person. Like that's the thing he says before he dies. It's just like, damn, yeah, they did it quick and it's really meaningful.
Yeah. No, it's a good way for his character to go out, I suppose. So yeah, and just like it totally redefines their relationship that you thought you understood up until that point. So no, it's good stuff.
Yeah, and then referring to him as his dad, it's just like, there you go, we've completed it. It's good stuff.
FD Link says, can you please do a happy hour series on the Star Wars OT? It'd be nice to get refreshed on why we love Star Wars in the first place. God damn, I mean,
if you do that, you're gonna have to have more than one guest, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Star Wars quite a bit in our time, I believe.
Well, if the people want it, Drinker, what are you gonna do?
I know, yeah. Yeah, it would be really interesting to revisit them, actually, just to...
Maybe we could do it as like whenever your next happy hour anniversary is. You can have a whole bunch of people on, maybe we can talk about the whole trilogy or something, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll go on for about 12 hours, I would imagine.
At least.
Billy Thriller says, will you review Invincible? Keep up the good work. If I get time. It might be an extra shot instead of a full review, but I'll see what I can do. Another one from the Provocateur Extraordinaire for $50. Damn, man, you're being extremely generous. I lied. I have a little coin left. Enough to tell you, sir, that my dad loved your first book. I'll be sending him your second and third books in the next few paydays. Thank you for all the content you create, sir. Well, thank you very much. And, I'm glad you're enjoying my stuff, but, like, thank you for being so generous. Like, I really appreciate it. Astro Pictures says, hey, Drinker, have you seen the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy? If not, then you should definitely check it out and review them, as they're really great films. I think I've got vague memories of watching the first two. Like, they were kind of after my time as far as, like, being a kid goes, so... Like, I didn't really watch them from that point of view.
I feel the same way. I saw the first one on the when I was exiting that era, so I was just like, yeah, I never caught the other two. I hope they're good though. Obviously,
I think they were quite good from memory.
I hear mixed things about the third one. I guess we'll see from chat what we what's the general takes on the trilogy. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, How to Train Your Dragon? Is it good or bad or what?
Let us know, chat.
Yeah, tell us what to think. I'll move on anyway as we go. Danny Boy says, big fan, bud. Still want that Colossus roar from the BTLS stream you did. BTLC? What was that again? Also,
BTLC. I'm not sure.
Oh man, that's going to bug me now. Oh, Big Trouble in Little China.
Right,
Colossus roar. I remember that. Also, if you can tell Brad Perkins he's your heterosexual life mate, you're going to make a stranger very happy. What? Brad Perkins, you're my life mate. Patrick Thomas says, you criticize films that don't give information, but on films like Highlander, you say it's good to not know. When is that line crossed? Thanks. Okay, so this is an interesting one. My take on this, right, is when you're dealing with supernatural elements, right, I think there's a lot to be said for having an air of mystery to it and a certain mystique. And the more of that you peel back, the more you take away the interesting, thing that's driving you forward with it. I think you need a certain amount of information just to understand what you're operating with, but I don't want to know all the details if it's something like Highlander where the immortals are magical. I don't really necessarily need to know where they come from or how they were created. It's enough to keep that vague and ambiguous. If it was something like a science fiction movie, I would want a lot more explanations, because you're not dealing with supernatural stuff anymore. You're dealing with science, and science is predicated on explanations and discovering the truth. So that's where the line is for me, and it's not exactly perfect for every film. It's not like a hard and fast rule. There's a little bit of nuance to it for me, but generally that's what I would look for.
What do you do when you have a fantasy sci-fi?
Yeah, I don't know.
With spooky ghosts in space with the spaceships. Oh no.
That was like
Event
something
Horizon's
like
kind of like that, right? Yeah.
Well, exactly. That's where I'm fine with getting revelations about what the faster than light drive is and how it operates. You know, it creates a black hole and all that sort of stuff. But we don't know where it takes you when you're not in this universe, when you're slipping through into like warp or whatever. And you know, I don't need to know the exact mechanics of it, but that's fine. Like, it gives me enough to operate on, and it maintains that. It gives me enough answers to like shed some light on what actually happened, but it doesn't explain everything. Again, that's cool for me. I think there's a compromise to be had there, and that's me trying to think on the fly when I'm doing this stuff.
It's a big subject, you know.
Yeah, but again, like. It's tough to just say, like, right, this is what you have to do in this specific kind of movie, and this is what you should do in another kind. Like, it's not always just a hard and fast rule for everything, but like those are my general kind of guidelines. So yeah, like there's definitely times when I'll criticize a film for saying too much or not enough. It just depends on the context of it.
Yeah.
Stephen Otten here says, "Hail Drinker and MauLer, let's go to the Winchester, have a cold pint, and wait for this to blow over." Sounds good to me, man. If there was a zombie apocalypse, that's where I'd want to be.
Yeah, same.
I really want a hog lump as well, now that I've seen them in this movie. They just totally made it up for this film. I just love it.
Well timed too in the opening scene, because he eats one and he's crunching it more and more as she explains more things that he considers daunting. She's like, "We should do X." He goes like, "Crunch." Then we should do this. He goes, "Crunch." She's like, "We should do this." Crunch. Like, he's just getting all panicky about actually doing stuff.
Well, you remember when Ed throws him some, like it throws him a packet, and like he turns his head and it just hits him right in the forehead. Obscure Weibo says, "Big fan, mate. Keep up the good work." Thank you very much. Mr. Nobody says, "I like that Gary from TWE is something like what Shaun would have become if he didn't go through his arc and sort his life out." Yeah, so Gary from The World's End. Yeah, very much so. RRTNZ says, "Drinker, you're the king." Thank you. "Being Welsh is awesome. Glad I have something in common with MauLer and Nick Frost."
Yeah.
At work now. We'll listen to you gents later today. Oh, damn. Right, so this is a Welsh saying. Leish da pawb.
I'm sure that's close enough.
It says, "Cheers everyone" in Welsh, apparently. I can't speak Welsh, I'm sorry. James Moore says, "My favourite movie of the trilogy, even if Hot Fuzz is objectively better." Yeah, same here. Shaun of the Dead is one of my first horror I remember seeing, along with Freddy versus Jason. Jesus. Good times. Love you too. I might recommend a few more classic horrors, but you know.
Imagine watching them back to back, Freddy versus Jason, Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
It's a weird experience.
MJO Skyver says, "Hello there, Drinker and Longman. 2 out of 3 Cornetto Trilogy films discussed at length and with love on these streams. Love them. I hope you also talk about The World's End sometime in the future." Well, we will, for sure. And that's going to be the end of our arc with this. Khaled Ahmed says, "Just watched the film for the first time yesterday. Absolutely loved it. I prefer Hot Fuzz, though. Still haven't seen At World's End. Hope it's good. Edgar Wright is a genius, and so are you guys." Thank you.
It gets a little difficult sometimes for me to explain why I prefer Hot Fuzz, but it is close. Like they're both really, really good films.
Yeah, I think there's more complexity to the plot for Hot Fuzz, because obviously the premise is like a mystery and kind of unraveling the layers of it, and like there being like lots of red herrings and all that stuff. Like, whereas Shaun of the Dead's not as complex as that. It's just a straight up kind of survival story with a bit of a lot of character stuff in between. So it doesn't quite have that complexity that you get with Hot Fuzz.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see why it's considered better. I've always got a soft spot for it. The Lizard Machine says, call back to the Midnight's Edge stream. I own an official Connor McLeod katana replica, and it's awesome. It's got to be. If you've got a katana from Highlander, that's got to be good. I enjoyed that stream, actually. I wish I had more time on it. Dean Loveday says, coccicidal maniac. Heel versus babyface. How's it going, man? What's up, you sexy boys? No, as you're the sexy one here.
Yes.
Big Al says, can we get a collab with you and your fellow Scottish countryman? Wolfman's got nards. The dude does some awesome horror reviews and content on his channel. I feel like he's commenting on a few of my videos. I've not really spoken to him directly, but yeah, I'll look him up. Chris Tolfer says, Drinker, do you have any merch, specifically a full-size pillow, full-size body pillow? My wife says she needs it for science. Also, can you both say hi to Andrea? Also, hi, MauLman.
Well, hi, Andrea.
Hi, Andrea. There we go. Job done. I don't have a full-size body pillow at the moment. I don't think Teespring do them, sadly. So, what can you do? The God of Gravy says, sorry, what will fix Army of the Dead? You know what will bring us the true creative vision of it? 2 words, Snyder Cut.
Oh, boy. Maybe in black and white it would be better.
Army of the Dead is a movie that absolutely doesn't need to be longer.
No.
Say that about it.
Do you remember the end with the black guy who finds out he's been bitten? It takes like 10 years to find out he's been bitten. He's just watching the scene for ages.
Yeah. And it's like he has to go all the way to the bathroom on the plane, and then he sees it, and it's just like, oh fuck.
Well,
it's not even an interesting revelation. Like,
well, because I feel like if I was doing it, I don't know. You have him. By the way, he managed to survive the nuke in a safe. I don't even want to. Let's just ignore that part.
How did he get out of the safe? He's locked in from the inside.
You see the nuke blew it open. It makes sense.
Oh, okay.
And maybe there's an escape hatch in there. You press a little button, you can get out. But yeah, like he walks all the way to that house. He steals the car. He drives to like an airport, and then he pays off the person at the airport to get on the plane. He talks to the stewardesses, has a drink with them, then goes into the back, and he's like, "Oof, I'm feeling the whole thing." And then he sees the bite, and he starts laughing while they announce we're heading to like Mexico or something. And I was like, "Wow, you could have done all of that in 10 seconds if you wanted to."
Yep. Oh, imagine what Edgar Wright could have done with this movie.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, such a dumb revelation, because it's like he seems like a pretty level-headed guy. He seems like the kind of guy who would just kill himself if he knew he was infected with this. Like,
not to mention, how did he not notice before? How did you just miss that? It's like, okay.
So shit. Soupy Comics says, Drinker, you've got red on you. I know.
He does.
Problems. Al H said, give me £5 super chat with nothing on it, so thank you. Homerostasis says, one of my favorite movies of all time. Hilarious comedy combined with genuine emotion. The scene where his mum dies is genuinely heartbreaking. It is. Yeah. Doug Keller says, thoughts on the movie Trainspotting?
That's good shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those films I've seen too many times, I think, in my life. I've kind of burned out on it. But yeah, like absolutely captured the mood of Scotland in the mid-90s. Like the way they portray Edinburgh, it's like, yeah, that's kind of what it was like. It was a bit of a shithole. But yeah, I wasn't so keen on T2. Maybe that was just me. I think they left it.
Oh, fuck. For a second there, I thought you meant 2 out of 2, and I was like, drink it. Are we going to have a problem? Like,
well, we spent like 5 hours talking about how much we loved it.
That's very true.
Andre Jones says, now, these 2 are my favorite guys to listen to at work. Can't wait for the new summer movies to give them fresh material to rip apart. I know we were talking about this before. We felt spoiled. We had 2 new movies that came out this week. 2 whole movies.
Yeah, I've seen both of them. They both gave me a headache. So how about that?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I'm ready for the summer movie season. I just want to see stuff again. It's gonna be good. Hopefully.
Black Widow on the way. I'm sure it'll be great.
I'm really excited for the Eternals. I don't know about you.
Oh, dude, I think I've been anticipating this since I was like, 5 years old. That's just the movie to see. I like how it's going to fit in, seeing all those wonderful characters interacting with each other. Yeah, on board. That trailer was phenomenal. Best trailer I've ever seen.
I was going to say about the trailer, yeah. Like, was it not amazing that they didn't have a single antagonist in it, or give you any hint about what the story is, or anything?
I think it just epitomizes Marvel right now, where they're like, we have no fucking clue what we're doing. Like, yep, I can tell.
There was someone made a great meme of this. Actually, it was like it was from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and it was Grandpa Joe. And it was just him saying, like, for years he has done nothing to intervene until now it's just him holding out the golden ticket.
Yeah, there's like Marvel's Grandpa Joe.
Oh man.
I bet you can't wait for the Marvels. That's going to be astonishing. I think having Brie Larson's triumphant return with the character from WandaVision that's already morally broken. It's like, oh, can't wait to see them kick ass together.
It's going to be glorious. Like, it's not often that you see a movie just genuinely become a meme before it's even come out, but like that's what it's going to be. Like, so it's going to be exciting. Hal 9000 says, who did Peter Serafinowicz, aka the Pete voice in Star Wars canon? He voiced Darth Maul, if I'm not mistaken.
He's everywhere for lots of different things. Do you remember when he showed up in John Wick 2? He was his like gun guy.
Yes. Yeah.
And really charming, that man. He knows exactly how to. He's like one of the best British voices there are.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's a good voice actor. He was also in Guardians of the Galaxy.
And he keeps dying in things. Yeah. I was like, damn, he could have kept him alive. Could have had him, do some more stuff.
Have you seen the sketch that he's in for Kitchen Gun?
I haven't. I don't think so.
Oh, look up Peter Serafinowicz Kitchen Gun. It's just.
Oh, that actually, the more you say it, it sounds familiar. I think someone might have shown me that. I'm not sure, but yeah, he's.
It's done as an advert, but it's like the sort of Barry Scott adverts for like Sif, where he just yelling at the camera. Like, it's kind of like that kind of character, but he shoots the grime off of kitchen sinks. So like, like he'll shoot it, and so the kitchen sink is now like shiny and gleaming, but it's full of bullet holes. That's great. Andre Lopez says, you missed when Shaun tells his mum that Phil isn't the same, and zombie Phil turns down the radio. I did get to that bit though.
Oh, he did, yeah.
Got there eventually. Mr. Will Guitar says, I think my favorite zombie movie ever, unfairly filed as a Naked Gun romp, but I think it's exactly how most UK folks would behave. Petty, just as rubbish as before the zombie apocalypse. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I wouldn't classify it. It's not the same kind of movie as something like Naked Gun. I think that was a bit unfair because it's there's a lot of comedy, but it is very realistic.
It's not slapstick
in
the same way that Naked Gun is. I wouldn't say, and it's not like absurdist kind of humor.
Yeah, because don't get me wrong, I love Naked Gun, but Shaun of the Dead and the Naked Gun are just not the same thing.
Yeah. Blue Satoshi says, Drinker, that's an excellent SpongeBob cosplay you've got there. Thank you. Dean Loveday says, Drinker, you got red on your shirt. I know. Over and over again. John Whitfield says, I'd love to hear your take on the De Niro Grodin movie Midnight Run. I consider this a perfect movie all the way around. I haven't seen Midnight Run yet, I'm afraid, so I don't know. Have you seen it?
I've not seen that either.
Okay. Yeah, we can't comment on it yet, but I'm sure it's good. Max P says, have you seen Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse?
Nope.
No, actually. Scout's Guide. No, I haven't seen that one, I'm afraid, mate. David Lim says, Shaun of the Dead is the airplane of zombie movies. P.S. Challenge you to Critical Drinker. Do a parody critic of Airplane. It'll be fine. Airplane's a fantastic movie. I mean, I really like it.
I love that and Naked Gun. They're awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it not long ago, and I was just like, God damn, this is genuinely funny. Like, it's got some great moments in it. I love the autopilot.
Yeah.
Soupy Comics says, hey, Drinker, I bought your first Ryan Drake novel on Audible, then became chronically depressed when you weren't drunkenly narrating it. You can hear me drunkenly reading the first chapter of my latest book. I think that's over on my second channel. So like I did the whole of that, and it's got sound effects and audio tracks and everything. It's quite nice. But there's no way I could do that for the whole book. I would destroy my vocal cords. Homerostasis says, it gets me every time when Shaun says, I'm not laughing while crying and saying goodbye to Ed. Set up and payoff is right jam. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Zervus gave me 20 kroners and just says, phallus. Fair enough. Trenton Quinn says, I'll never forget how hard my buddy and I laughed when they got out of the bar and the entire military has just been clearing house, saving the day.
Yeah, again, we completely switch what kind of movie we're doing.
Just give me 1 second while I catch up on where I was at. Where are they? Oh, yeah, there we go. Bailey says, more whiskey. Train to Busan zombies are epic. Fuck the rest. Yeah, they're the fast zombies, aren't they?
Yeah, I saw someone bringing up that it won't be that easy to take out the zombies when they're the fast ones. It's like, okay, guys, I don't need to underestimate guns, okay? Even with fast zombies, guns are really good.
Guns are good, yeah. Don Graham says, the premise of The World's End didn't need aliens. I mean, you need to have them face some kind of threat, I suppose.
Well, yeah, doesn't need alien. You could say that Shaun of the Dead didn't need zombies, and that'd be you'd be like, what do you mean? And it's just like, well, I mean, all the films are about the characters doing things. Then there's like a set. The first one is obviously zombies. The second one is like this thriller, like a cop drama, and the third one is aliens. And I think that to remove all of like the blanks and what they represent in terms of like safety and identity and stuff. This is the thing. I kind of look forward to us talking about The World's End, because I think there's a lot in that film, and a lot of people kind of go past it because it's just not quite the same as Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't want, I just don't want it to go under the radar of how much they achieved in it.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to rewatching it and talking about it properly. Jay Fraser 360 says, Hail Drinker and MauLer. At 11, Shaun was my first zombie film. Thus, David's death scarred me for months. What's another horror comedy favorite of yours? For me, it's got to be Dog Soldiers. I fucking love that movie. It's
I've always loved Dog Soldiers as well.
Similar to this is like well constructed, really well written screenplay.
What even are like the classic horror comedies? Did you see that new one that came out, The Dead Don't Die?
No, I've not seen that.
Neither have I. Zombieland, I guess that counts to a degree.
Yeah. I'd give Zombieland a thumbs up. But yeah. Volstev says,
count? I don't know if Scream counts. Maybe. It's not really a comedy, is it?
It's not so much a comedy as a parody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember like that just being totally revolutionary back in the day. Like everyone was like blown away, like, "Oh shit, you're upending the horror genre."
So this is the thing. The horror genre, it gets renewed like more than any other genre. It seems like it gets bored quickly, and it's like always tropes. While you have fantasy, just keeps on going with all these different ideas. It doesn't feel like the horror has all these staple films that kind of changed how we do horror.
Yeah, I mean, Game of Thrones changed fantasy, I suppose. You know, it took it out of that very like high-minded stuff of like Lord of the Rings and made it like down and dirty with like swearing and sex and all the good stuff.
And which one will be remembered?
I know. Well, there you go. Exactly. That's all right. Lord of the Rings will get destroyed by the TV show that they're going to make.
Yeah, man. Like we're not even far away from that now. That's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah. Can't wait. Really. Volstev says, Drinker recommends 28 Days Later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Johnny Y says, Drinker, you're a radical. No, I'm a free radical. That's what I am. Andrew Fritz says, a Welshman and a Scot have a couple-hour chat and neither one of them gets drunk. Now I've seen it all. I mean, like, I'm working up to getting drunk, which you can probably tell because I'm starting to slur my words. Trenton Quinn says, hey MauLer, thinking of building a gaming PC here soon. I was wondering if you had any quick advice. More techish thing I've done has been to put an SSD in a PS4.
Oh, well, I've got a couple of friends who are very knowledgeable on like building PCs specifically, so I get my knowledge from them. But obviously there's like a shit ton compared to even 5 years ago. There's so many like channels on YouTube now that go through everything and review every single component and have like quick guides. There's websites that offer like pre-building things for you, but based on the parts that you want specifically. I'm not a great source for what to do with your PC specifically, but yeah, the internet is your best friend with stuff like this.
Yeah, I'm lazy as fuck. I just get pre-built gaming PCs.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. It's all about how many LED lights they've got inside them as well. Tweeter Trash says, Pablo on the bottom, Geode on top. I ship Pablo. Aye, that's genius Star Wars writing. Geode, a rock that pilots ships somehow. Charlie Fernandez says, love you both. Cheers from the USA. Take some money, you cunts. Thanks, man. They give me $100, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. Soupy Comics says, off topic, I was wondering if you had any opinion on Galaxy Quest, a well-written, clever, and underrated 90s comedy, in my opinion. I like it, personally.
I'm a very big fan of Galaxy Quest. I thought it was really clever. A lot of it was really fun.
It feels like a lot of it's probably going to be dated now because it was very based around like Star Trek of the time, like how...
Yeah, it can happen. People aren't going to get exactly what it's making fun of, but at the same time, I think... maybe Star Trek has gotten so shit again that it'll become relevant. It's
possibly,
like,
yeah. Siberian says, evening guys, recommend me a drink, preferably whiskey. I need to join the new Cruella experience. Oh, MauLer, you still doing a critique of TFA?
Oh yeah, this is the thing. All my projects are ongoing. They just takes ages to make them, so they're on their way.
I love how you just spring random stuff on us, though, like the Father review.
Yeah, that and the Snyder Cut. I didn't publicize either of them. I was like, these are just happening.
Yeah. So in terms of drinks, what would I recommend? Probably Lagavulin or Highland Park. Either of those whiskies will get you sorted out pretty quick, and it'll help you forget Cruella. Nightmare X123 says, I couldn't help but have a laugh watching Diane get hot and bothered listening to Shaun outline his plans. Oh, she does actually, yeah. When Shaun's saying them what he's going to do, she's like, we're with you, Shaun.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, totally taken aback by it. Chris Webb says, Timothy Dalton was at his best in Hot Fuzz. He was a glorious villain.
He thoroughly proves that he should be playing villains in like everything, basically.
Yeah, like, great guy. Dalton Rambo says, hey drinker, I got trashed last night and apparently I rented the Delta Force, but I don't remember. Good times. I miss manly men in movies. Yeah, Delta Force is great. I'm going to be doing a few more of these like older like war movies and action movies and stuff on the second channel, so keep an eye open. Rod Thunderheart says, hail drinker and hail MauLer. I catch your streams as often as I can. Drinker, I'm sure you're a Rowdy Roddy Piper fan, obviously. Have either of you seen They Live? Review trivia. Roddy Piper said it was documentary month before he died. Yeah, I've seen They Live and I love it. Great film.
Yeah, and it's like infinitely referenced. Like it's a bit of a staple.
Yeah. Billy Thriller says, based on your insight from the Cruella review, I won't be surprised if they do a mini series on the Seven Dwarfs, one episode per dwarf. I can't wait for Dopey's one then.
He's just like hit in the head at some point. It's like, you see, you fully understand him now.
Yeah, it's like he was a total intellectual before that.
Yeah.
Trenton Quinn says, you, MauLer, and Shad all need to do a stream for the Holy Grail. It's a movie that my dad and I watched a lot growing up, and the movie my father-in-law and I bonded over. Holy Grail, yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm sure they're talking about Monty Python, right? Not like a different movie.
I assume so, yeah. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Yeah, it's a good film, though.
Yeah.
Max P says, have you seen Train to Busan 2 and Army of the Dead? I haven't seen Train to Busan 2, but I have seen Army of the Dead, as we were saying.
I've been told, is Train to Busan like that's typically looked at as pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I've not seen that, but I have seen Army of the Dead, unfortunately. So,
yeah, still hurts. Clifford Schaefer says, my stepfather was dying of cancer when this movie was released, and the last moments between Shaun and his stepfather hit me hard and took me a moment to get back into the movie, unexpectedly deep. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, man. Dean Loveday says, the twin zombies are a reference to the twin zombies in the George Romero original Dawn of the Dead movie, which had similar-looking twin zombies. I didn't know that. Wendy H says, please review Attack the Block, another one of my favorite scare flicks. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's good fun, that one. John, funnily enough, John Boyega and Jodie Whittaker are the like main people in that.
Oh, damn.
And she's not like, you know, it's good stuff. I rewatched it like a month ago, so it's they're making a second one now, I think, as well.
Okay. Yeah, because that was kind of what put Boyega on the map, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's pretty good in it. You know, he has a character. That's neat.
Yeah. Has a character, he has an arc, you know, he does things.
Yep.
Imagine that. The Justice 35 says, two of my favorite critics reviewing one of my favorite movies. Are you guys going to cover The Bad Batch or our animated series off the table for EFAP?
There's no, like, we can barely fit in right now, like, all of the stuff we want to cover, like, covering, like, the animated shows on the Star Wars end. It's like, I don't think we're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I have to be honest, like, The Bad Batch never interested me in the slightest, so I've got no real desire to talk about it. And there's, like, a million other movies I would rather cover first.
I've heard a lot of mixed stuff about it. Like, some people are happy, some people aren't. It's I don't know how good it is. I don't know if people are upset for like the previous animated stuff, but yeah.
Homerostasis says a lot of what Disney has been putting out lately, including Marvel, has had a gross morality to it. Not sure what's driving it, but I don't like it. Yeah, you're not the only one, man.
Nope. It's definitely noticed it.
Bailey says, curious about your takes on the afterlife with Archie comics. Jughead was an epic zombie. I haven't read them, so I
got no reference for
that. Sorry. Anthony Willis says, you should see Star Kids Twisted. It's Aladdin with Jafar as the hero. Exactly how to do a villain origin story perfectly. All 2 hours on YouTube. Okay. Nero says, I just watched The Courier and thought it was pretty good. Have you seen it? What's your thoughts? I haven't seen The Courier, I'm afraid, so I don't know.
Is that Jackie Chan's in that, or is that something else? Oh no, that's something else, I think. I don't think I've seen that.
Let's see, Courier. Right, so it's who's in it? A courier in London discovers that one of his packages is. Come on, load. But one of the packages he's transporting is a bomb.
Oh boy!
Imagine my shock. I don't know any of the people in it, but yeah, okay. Don't know much about that one. What's the next one? Mison1 says, I know you must get a lot of requests, but after you reviewed Le Mans 66, would you consider looking at Rush? Yeah, I'd look at that. Joe Papa Sergio says, random, have any of you guys seen the Adrian Brody movie, The Jacket? And if so, what are your thoughts?
I think I saw that when it came out. I haven't seen it since, though. I remember thinking it was weird. I've not got anything insightful on that.
I was almost in it. I auditioned to be an extra in it, but then I couldn't do the filming dates that they wanted, and so
you were too drunk. Admit it.
I was too drunk. Yeah. Interestingly, they wanted to like hire people that looked mental, and so I auditioned, and apparently I got it. But yeah, I couldn't make it. But that was what got me started as being an extra in stuff for a little while. So that was fun. Malbrain says, talk more about Spaced, lads. These films are just an extension of it. It was a spectacular TV show, and Drinker, watch Grabbers. Yeah, I need to rewatch Spaced. Like I watched the kind of Resident Evil episode just for context of Shaun of the Dead, but I've not really seen much of the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, need to give it a look. Chester Bonaparte gave me £5, so thank you. Rebecca the Nomad says, hello, The Drinker. Would you consider covering Maverick? It's a fantastic Western, incredibly funny, and Mel Gibson was awesome in it. We can't say the name Mel Gibson anymore. It's not allowed. He's been like blacklisted from the world, apparently. But yeah, I've seen Maverick, and it's really good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Chester Bonaparte says, MauLer, the channel that informed you about underwater Desudekan reviews did an hour-long Jumanji review. Just giving it a shout-out. Thought it had some worthwhile and surprising insights.
Of the classic or the new one they did?
It doesn't say.
Well, yeah, It wasn't like that they made me want to see underwater. I just found out that underwater was inspired by Lovecraft's work, and it's relatively high budget. So I was like, oh, I'll give that a shot. But you rarely see that these days, and I just thought it wasn't terrible. So I was like, yeah.
The God of Gravy says an Eastwood movie worth doing would be Heartbreak Ridge. Yes, I'd forgotten about that one. That's awesome, that movie. It's my favorite non-Western movie of his. Hoorah! Yeah, Heartbreak Ridge is a good film.
I've not seen it.
Yeah, so he's like a Marine Corps like sergeant or something like that, and he's kind of approaching retirement, and he's got to like train a platoon of like total slackers, and they end up going to like war somewhere. And you know, it's like the classic thing where he's got to whip them into shape and turn them into like an actual unit. But he just plays an absolute badass. Like he's the way he talks and stuff in it, it's just like pure Marine awesomeness. John Oakletree says, off topic, but check out Sorcerer. Could make a good production hell video. Friedkin was a slave driver when it came to getting what he wanted on film. Kind of reminds me of Stanley Kubrick. Much the same, like a total perfectionist. He would do like hundreds of takes of the same scene.
You have to wonder if they were around today, if they would have been cancelled the fuck out from all like actors saying like it's hell working for these people.
They would be accused of like harassment or
you
know, abusing them or whatever, and that's it. But then, you know, you wouldn't produce the great movies that they did.
Well, yeah, stuff like that does kind of make you wonder, right? Like if you found out one of the greatest movies of all time, greatest performances, had a lot of that behind it, like a lot of, you know, shouting at them, saying like you're doing a pathetic job, like you need to do this take again, you need to actually get your emotion. You'd be like, is it worth it?
I mean, you know, you look at something like what's it called, The Shining. You know, Stanley Kubrick pressed Shelley Duvall to the point where she was almost having a nervous breakdown. But then you see that reflected in her character's performance, and I don't know, man. Like, it's easy for us to sit here, like in our nice, comfortable chairs, and be like, "Yeah, oh, it's totally worth it because we got good movies at the end of it." We didn't have to go through what they went through to make it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it becomes a harder question when if it was, let's say, like your sister who went through it and they tell you about all of it and you're like, was it worth it for that incredible film? And you start to wonder, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah. It is a tough one.
Funny enough, that's what Whiplash is all about.
Okay.
Have you seen Whiplash?
Like, no.
Oh shit! You need to watch Whiplash. It's like one of the best movies ever, and it's one of J.K. Simmons. I think J.K. Simmons got an Oscar for his performance in it.
So what's the premise?
Well, I wouldn't want to say too much, but it's a guy who's a drummer and he's trying to become the best drummer ever, and J.K. Simmons is gonna tutor him. Let's say that's about as far as I'll go before that film is really intense.
Yeah, did you reference this in one of your videos?
I think I might have, but Jay did it recently. If you saw Jay,
Jay in her Doctor Who video, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I did. I got a few like scenes from it where the guy basically breaks up with his girlfriend because she would essentially hold him back from being like the best he could be.
His goal in that film is to become the best ever, and he sees like spending time with a girlfriend will only get in the way, and so he explains that to her, and she's like blown away that he's so robotic about how he's going to try and fix his life to be the best drummer ever.
Yeah, that's coming back to me now.
Fully recommend it. Check it out sometime.
Sounds good. Robert Lewis says, thoughts on Chronicle. Did you see the anime Akira, in which it was derived from? Greetings from California, delivering mail in 100-degree Fahrenheit. Jesus. We've had like a couple of slightly warm days here in Scotland, and I've been melting.
I hate any kind of warm weather. 0 degrees, I'll be happy with.
Yeah. We're just like here, we're just not built for hot weather, and it just totally saps my energy. I just want to like sit inside when it's like this. I haven't seen Chronicle actually.
That's another good one.
Yeah, because it's what put Trank on the map, didn't it? That's what got his gig for Van Forstick.
He got wiped off the map.
Yeah. Stephen Bobo says, Critical Drinker, you mentioned pro wrestling references a lot in your reviews. Really? If you're a fan, then what is your favorite wrestler or time era and wrestling organizations? I mean, I guess my favorite era would be the Attitude Era in the late 90s, because that's when they just didn't give a shit and they were prepared to just do pretty much whatever came to mind. It's all very sanitized now.
I think that's like the only time I was watching it too.
Yeah, I think my favorite wrestler is the Ultimate Warrior, just because he was so like batshit crazy. I just loved him. I know he was well before the Attitude Era, but I loved his style. I would just sprint you to the ring every time. Night King 01 says, last stream I said Army of the Dead was enjoyable. Thought for 5 seconds it's awful, so many plot holes. Just leave with the head the way you came in, Law.
Dude, that film is riddled. Like I said, I wouldn't mind doing like a stream with you at some point where we just go through it because it's like infinite problems. But it's a pretty like, I don't know, it's a bit of a slog, that film. So I don't know if it's like it would be an exciting stream or if it would just be like lame.
I mean, yeah. It would just be like trying to make sense of it and trying to find ways they could have done it better. I think it'd be quite a tiring stream by the end.
Yeah.
Taker610 says, Drinker, have you seen the Wachowskis' Jupiter Ascending? If not, perhaps invite him to the eventual EFAP movies, MauLer. Jupiter Ascending. Yeah, I have seen it.
We do intend to watch that at some point, but yeah, we'd have you on for that if you want. I'm sure it'll be fun. That movie is insane from what I've gathered.
It absolutely is, yeah. I don't even know how to describe it. Yeah, Eddie Redmayne is just batshit crazy. Yeah. Chester Bonaparte says, and Drinker, plug the Waterloo review. I haven't reviewed it properly, but I did go on the History Bros channel and do a stream talking about Waterloo, which I love. I think it's a great movie. It's like a really good, like epic war film. Nero says, oh, and I watched The Guard again yesterday. I loved it, but I do prefer In Bruges and Seven Psychos. Thoughts?
Have you seen all of them?
Nope.
I have.
I've seen In Bruges.
We should watch Seven Psychopaths some point. I love that film. But yeah, The Guard is a bit like I wouldn't connect them as a 3 because the same creator made the first 2, but The Guard is someone else, I think. But Brendan Gleeson's pretty great in The Guard anyway.
Okay. Brendan Gleeson's always good. He's
yeah,
a great guy. Davesky Nods says, check out Frost and Peg in Danger 50,000 Volts on YouTube. Zombie brilliance post-space that's practically a Shaun of the Dead spin-off. I've never seen that, no?
They did this show recently, and I watched it specifically because they're in it. It got cancelled. It was 1 season. I watched it with Rags and Jay. Let me find it for you. There's Nick Frost, the main character in it, and Simon Pegg like turns up every once in a while. It was called Truth Seekers. Nobody ever watched that fucking show. It's terrible. It was so disappointing because I love those guys, but the scripts in that series were painful. And it got cancelled. And when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's probably for the best. Bye.
This is when Edgar Wright's not around to help out, basically.
Yeah, obviously they are actors and they can contribute, but if they don't have a script they can work with, it's like, yeah, I mean, because it's crazy to me. They're both like over 50 now. And I was just like, oh shit. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, they've been Hollywoodized lately. They kind of look younger than they are, particularly, Simon Pegg.
Yeah.
I think he went through that real phase where he was in like great shape and stuff, and like he was trying to act like a Hollywood A-lister. I was like, don't lose your charm,
That's the thing, man. I feel like, be careful what you wish for sort of element where I'm just like, I wish they would make more movies as a team again, but I'm like, maybe they wouldn't be the same at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, they've kind of come a long way from where they were. Tracy Wilborn says, the Drinker is cleaned up and wearing a tie. Yeah, I am. What the fuck? Trying to impress Tatiana? Nah, I don't need ties to impress her. I just bring in a wad of cash. She's happy. The Justice 35 says, MauLer, I've got to say the best EFAP content is when you, Wolf, and Rags did Fellowship of the Ring and made it an allegory for the drug war. R.I.P. Fringy.
Yeah, there's just 3 Lord of the Rings videos where we just watched it. We're just every character, let's just pretend they're motivated by trying to acquire more drugs. A lot of stuff still makes a lot of sense. I recommend it.
Calibra says, Critical Drinker, have you watched the Money Heist series? Money Heist? No, I've not seen that, I'm afraid. Well, have you seen it? Did you say more?
Sorry, no, I haven't seen it.
All right. Targon says, Drinker and MauLer, have you heard of a guy called The Vile Eye? He does analysis of movie villains. I dig him a lot. I think you would too. The Vile Eye. No, I've not heard of him.
I might have, it's one of those ones where I might have seen a video from them, but I don't recognize the name.
Okay. David Stout says, hey, my Celtic brothers, Shaun of the Dead is better. Zombieland and Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2 as a USA best horror comedy ever. I'm 60% Celtic. That's a very specific amount. Nick B says, check out One Cut of the Dead. I don't know what that is.
No, neither do I.
Marksman of 117B says, come and see is Russia's Schindler's List, but better. Yeah, that's the movie you were referencing earlier.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Need to give it a look. XSL says, Guzman killing zombies out of Vegas is weird, right? Indeed. Chris Lowe says, a slightly separate topic but somewhat undead themed. Have you guys watched Castlevania Season 4? And if so, are you as disappointed with it as I am?
I always feel bad about hearing about these shows that when it came out, I remember getting loads of praise. Like it got loads of praise, and I was like, I might check it out at some point. And then like a few seasons roll by, which is I feel like this is gonna happen with Invincible, where I don't watch it until it's like 3 seasons are out or something. Then people can be like, oh, they've ruined it. I feel like, oh. What I hear, the first and second seasons of Castlevania are really, really good.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about it, but yeah, I don't know much about it myself. So yeah, don't know, I'm afraid. Wastegash Gamer says, Drinker, your voice makes my mum. MauLer, your voice makes my dad. It's been a hard day. Hi, Rags. Fair enough. Purple Brain gave me €5, so thank you. JD Beauchamp says, question for both of you. Should Edgar Wright make a Star Wars movie? If so, what kind should he make?
Dude, at this point, I'll just give him full freedom. So go nuts. The IP is dying. Like, do whatever you can.
Give him one of the shows. Oh,
yeah, and I feel like it's one of those things where it's just like, if he was like, what kind of tone am I going for? What kind of I'd just be like, you get immersed in Star Wars, and I want you to have full freedom. Just like work at your best, and hopefully we can maybe start to claw back something in the Star Wars IP.
It's going to take a lot, to be fair.
Yeah.
Frog Boogers says, Drinker and MauLer, love both of your work. A great choice of a movie to talk about today. Keep up the good work. Totally wish Edgar would get all the guys back together for a new movie. Yeah, like MauLer was saying there, like, everyone's 10 years older now. Would it be the same? I mean, hopefully, but you never.
Yeah, I'd be willing to give him a shot, but you just have the worry.
Yeah. I think there's just a couple left, actually. Space Wolf Blackmane says, hey guys, have you seen Invincible on Amazon Prime? It's surprisingly good. Everyone was talking about that on Twitter like a couple of weeks ago. Like, it was just this big thing all of a sudden.
Yeah, like I said, I'll probably hold out just for a bit, and if it's still considered the greatest thing ever sort of thing, I was like, yeah, I'll finally check it out at some point.
Mr. Wise Guy says, may not be up your alley, but Drinker, have you seen Sister Act? It's hilarious and the songs are awesome. Would recommend for fans of 90s comedy. I think I saw it when I was a kid, like one time
same.
ago, but I don't remember too much about it. Robert Lewis says, ever read the book Ender's Game? Did you watch that mediocre adaptation? The prequel books are pretty fun to read. Yeah, I watched the movie and it was god awful. So yeah, didn't really win me over. I've not read the book though. And one from Stephen Bobo here says, Critical Drinker and MauLer, when you guys watch lots of movies and do reviews and see all the flaws, plot holes, tropes, etc., is it hard to just watch your favorite shows and movies and not rip them apart?
Not really, because a lot of my favorite stuff, I'm very aware of why it's giving me the emotional response sort of thing, and then I can just let myself fall into it. So, say for example, like T2, I've loved that since I was a kid. I've only better understood why I like it so much, and so I know that payoff is coming, where the machine is going to say goodbye to John. And so when I'm watching each of the scenes beforehand, where they're interacting, I'm just like building it up in my head of like what this means to each of them and how it's going, and it almost helps when I get to that last scene where I can just experience like the emotion of it. Meanwhile, in something like Army of the Dead, I see them open that door and they come into Vegas, and it's like, oh wow, this is quite the spectacle. And then they keep walking. You're like, wait, you're not close the door. You didn't. Oh, wow, they just left the door open. And then you have them go. You see, they're all dried up, these zombies. So once it rains, they're gonna come back up. Never rains in the movie.
I know. It's so disappointing. I was like, surely that's going to happen. That's a cool little idea. I like stuff like that. And then, yeah, nothing.
One of the basic pieces of advice a lot of people give for script writing is like, just cut anything that's useless. Like, because obviously, it's like, why did you tell us that they wake up with rain?
It's the whole Chekhov's gun principle, isn't it? Like,
make use of everything.
But yeah, like, much like MauLer was saying there, like it allows you in a lot of ways to appreciate things just that little bit more. Like when we're talking here about Shaun of the Dead, we can see all the little pieces of extra work and effort that they put into the screenplay for this, and you just appreciate. You just go, nice one. You did a good job there. I really like that. And it's not like I can't enjoy other things. Like when I was watching, Mortal Kombat a few weeks ago, dumb as fuck. Like the plot makes no sense, but it doesn't matter. Like I'm not there for like a really mind-bending plot that's going to get me, really thinking. I'm just there to watch people kick the shit out of each other.
Oh yeah, when we were watching it, we were barely talking about how much the plot is just nonsensical. We were just like, yeah, well, the person gets sawn in half, and we were just like, yeah.
It's like that's why you're there to watch a Mortal Kombat movie. So it's fine. Like different things have different criteria, I suppose. There's just two more chats I think came in. Night King 01 says the first two seasons of Castlevania were like 9 or 10 out of 10. Season 3 was kind of just build up. I thought season 4 was okay. They actually pay off the characters though. Fair enough.
Yeah, of course we don't have much context, but that's what I've heard is that there's controversy of the latest stuff. Same for Attack on Titan, right? That's gone through a bit of a.
I haven't seen that, but I don't know much about it.
Oh, it's just that it gets recommended a lot, but now that the latest stuff has happened, a lot of people are like, no, don't watch it. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, you've been warned off it now.
It's like Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Ben says, ever seen Bone Tomahawk, Western horror hybrid with Kurt Russell? Found it on a good slow burn of a movie with great characters and gripping as hell. I haven't seen the whole movie. I've just seen the gruesome bits. Like I decided to watch them for some reason, and I was like, oh god, no, wish I hadn't.
Yeah, I would not only recommend the film, it is a bit rough, but I would also recommend the Red Letter Media review of it. They go over a lot of what I think is really strong in that film. It's a cool one.
Okay. Andy McCallum says, would you ever consider doing a collab with Mr. H? Yeah, guess so. John Oakletree says, here's some money to getting, tried to get some Ardbeg Corey Vecken, better than Lagavulin and tastes like you're drinking a campfire. Great stuff. You want it to be proper smoky, don't you? Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, there's one more here. Chris Lowe says, all you need to know about Castlevania Season 4 is Angry Joe gave it 10 out of 10, so it's maybe a 5 at most.
So we were doing EFAB and someone said like, oh, he ripped into Resident Evil 8, and I was like, oh yeah, what did he give it? It's like 7. It's like, oh, okay.
How did you get on with Resident Evil 8, by the way?
I had loads of fun. You can see it in all the streams I did, but I don't know. I thought it was kind of crap. I wish it were better.
Yeah, I see. I avoided your streams because I think you were slightly ahead of me when you were playing it. I was like, I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, like I kind of likened it. Like if Resident Evil 7 was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then 8 is more like Van Helsing.
Yeah, they that's something that, because we have a whole stream on it, we were kind of frustrated that they took all of these things from like classic horror, but then they didn't really do a lot with them. Like I didn't really get much of a vampire vibe from much of it. It was like, yeah, she's there, and she does like the aristocratic sort of like, I have to look important and prideful, but then I'm a horrible monster underneath. But it was like, it felt very thin. Barely got to know them. I'm surprised that none of the main baddies were like a werewolf person. You'd think that would have been the way to go, but it's just like, well, the wolf people are just kind of around, and you kill them, and that's about that.
See, I never found the werewolves even remotely scary. For me, they were just an annoying obstacle that you had to remove. Like, if anything, I find there's something about the zombies where it's like, they've got the form of a human, but there's not even a hint of intelligence there. They're just kind of this relentless killing machine that's just shambling towards you.
I got really confused. Do you remember the part of the game where a werewolf, like a huge one, bites you like 5 times in a row, and then he just like you're fine? I was like,
Yeah.
huh, okay. I was like, how threatening are these things? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're made of mold though, so it's okay. You know, that's why.
That doesn't help.
I know.
Even that you can die in the game over and over again, but also you're mold. It's like, okay.
Yeah, like how come you don't grow your fingers back when they get bitten off?
No idea.
It's there's a lot of really dumb stuff in it, and you know, I don't care about Ethan Winters in the slightest. You know, someone like Chris Redfield, it's like, okay, he's got a lot of history with the series, so he's like, he actually has a character. Like Ethan's just a faceless thing that's off screen. So yeah, I just never really like took to him as a character.
Yeah.
I think there's just one more here. Night King 01 says, have you seen Batman Mask of the Phantasm? Great film. Thoughts on the DC animated universe in general? I don't know, man. I don't want to go down that Southpaw route and start talking about DC animated universe.
I remember watching Flashpoint Paradox. I thought it was really awesome. I've seen, I can't remember, was it called Son of Batman? I've seen some of them like here and there, and I've always just found them fun. I don't know. Yeah. I don't have much to say on it.
I mean, they're all stuff that I would, if there's anything, it would be things I was watching when I was a kid, and like my memories of it would be pretty vague at this point. Yeah, I just remember.
Yeah, for reference, I've only seen bits and bobs of like a lot of it, so I've got nothing definitive to say. But yeah, a lot of people recommend it.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we made it to the end.
Oh my god,
we've completed our super chats, and we've done it in pretty good time as well, because normally our chats go on to like 5 or 6 hours, so we've done well tonight.
Well, it's a compact movie and thus a compact stream.
Yeah, we were efficient and slick, just like the screenplay. So yeah, damn man. Yeah, I mean, do you have any final thoughts on Shaun of the Dead?
I was just scrolling here. Did you catch the one about Star Trek? So will you do with the Star Trek movies?
Where is it here? Where is it? Oh yeah, sorry. Will you do other Star Trek movies? Yeah, I might do the TNG ones if I could find the right people to do it with me. Because damn, they're a slog. It wouldn't be a happy hour, put it that way.
Are you going to do a happy hour as like an alternative series?
Yeah, fucking get raging for hours on end. Night King, I was also asking, what's my favorite Romero zombie film? Yeah, it's going to have to be Dawn of the Dead, I think.
Yeah, mine would be Dawn. I liked Day of the Dead, but Dawn is probably the best one. Do you remember Land of the Dead? That one was weird.
Yeah, that was like the modern one, wasn't it?
Well, there's a couple of, because like I think was there a 2009 one and then a 2000? Yeah, because that was 2005, Land of the Dead. 2009 was Survival of the Dead.
I've not seen that one. I've seen Land of the Dead because I'm sure Simon Pegg and Nick Frost had a cameo in that as zombies.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Like they're chained up and people get their pictures taken with them and stuff. But yeah, I just remember Day of the Dead being really bleak, like even more so than Dawn of the Dead. Oh yeah, Chester Bonaparte was asking, what will lure Dank onto a happy hour? Any ideas? I've not approached him actually to do it. Just haven't got around to it, to be honest. Silo 101 says, short man bad. Yeah, everything should be long. And Nightlife Games says, so I'd just like to say to MauLer, thank you. The DS2 breakdown years ago, it was a very informative piece.
Yeah, man.
Dark Souls 2
took ages to make that one. Dark Souls 2 is bad. Don't play it.
Well, you do. Do you think you would do more like analysis pieces on video games?
There's so much stuff I want to do. My main issue these days is figuring out which projects I can tackle at what points. Because, for example, I could be halfway through one, really enjoying it, and then something like, let's just pretend for a second that Black Widow comes out, and it's not only incredibly bad, but it fucks with like a lot of the MCU, or at least what I like about it. I'm like, right, I really want to talk about that now. And so the other project goes on pause. The Father is an example of a film where I was like, I know I can do the project I want to do within like a month's time. And so the thing, like The Boys, that I'm working on perpetually, it will eventually come out. It's going to be really long. And then it's like, what about this other thing? What about this other one? And it's like, yeah, I need to clone myself at this point. But I still, I try to get around to a lot of different things at once. Like I like streaming new games that come out so you can get my initial thoughts like right on. And then stuff like Cruella will make the EFAP movies. You get what my thoughts on it are, but the big sort of deconstruction videos. It's just they're going to be a lot less common, but on subjects I'm very passionate about and I want to be very detailed on.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough, man. It kind of makes sense. Like thinking about the amount of work and time that has to go into each one. Yeah, I guess you've got to be pretty selective.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we made it to the end. So yeah, I just want to, like, as always, say thanks to everyone in chat for joining us for this one. Like, I hope you've got some entertainment out of us, you know, completely spurging over this movie for like a couple of hours. It's been awesome. And thank you to all the people that have sent in super chats, like, for your generosity. It's really appreciated. It really helps. And thanks to my guest MauLer for joining me for this one. It's been great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think they're actually pouring them in deliberately now to keep you. So I don't know what the plan is.
God damn it. What have we got here? Silo 101. It's our duty to send more super chats for more long. Yeah. Dyrus says, I like Z Nation TV show. It was campy, made fun of itself, and the tropes then could be serious at times. Underrated B-tier cable show. And I can't get the words out. Ransom G says, will Black Widow be riddled with SJW filth? If so, I might just join YouTube. Nobody's going to be more mad than me. I can pretty much guarantee that it will be.
Their plan does seem to be making the female Avengers, so you can imagine that we're going to get another character out of this film, be it Black Widow's sister or whatever. Someone is coming out of this that's going to be another hero, and she's going to be amazing.
Yeah, the bestest ever.
Yep.
Big Al's telling us that dogs can't look up. We know that, Big Al. But is John North London Mafia? That's what I want to know. Yeah, I think that's it now. I'm going to say that now before more super chats come in. We're going to end it. Yeah, thank you to everyone. Thank you to MauLer for joining me. And that is all we've got for today. So we're gonna go away now.